Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Value Conversation, Gen X Spoken Word. Fair use, fair use. All right, so with me tonight, I have one of the members of the Council of OGs, aka 3 OGs and the lady. Welcome back and thank you for showing up again. Hunting Wisdom. Alicia, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you, John?
Doing fine. Is the music drowning you out, or can you hear yourself speak right now?
It's good. You can lower it just a pinch, please, and thank you. Just a smidge.
All right, how's that?
It's good. It's good. Thank you.
Just a
Let's
second.
see. How's my lighting? I can turn this up a little bit. Ooh, is it too bright? No, that's good, right?
That'll work. Like I said, I'm the one up here looking like Grape 8.
Stop that. Stop it. You look fine.
Woo! All right. So, again, tonight, folks, the topic is going to be the loss of vigilance in Black culture. So I'm bringing this up because if anyone is paying attention to what's going on right now, we can see that there's a lot of strikes against the Black culture in general. So we've seen in the last 3 to 5 months, the history of Blacks in America has been now shown to be, thank you, Council. Thank you.
Yes.
So the culture has been shown to be, or proposed to be, divisive, racist, and revisionist. Now, we know if anyone has paid any attention that this is a lie on its face. For the most part, we've seen the rules that have been flipped around to whereas the Department of Justice has now turned into a law strike. Let's call it a strike force for the most part against any elements of what we used to know as being discrimination. So if anyone is caught participating in DEI, they're fining folks, they're removing their security clearances. If you are a law firm, they are taking away funding. If you are a university, all this is going in place here in the name of getting rid of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I now refer to it as being Trump DEI, division, extortion, intimidation. Yes.
And how long has this been going on?
This has been going on since his election, or should I say his inauguration.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have not been familiar with what's been going on, folks, then what I talk about tonight may be of news to you. For others, it'll be routine. Now, as always, if we don't have folks who join us right off the bat, that's not a big deal because the fact we know there's the replay game. But as always, the information will still stand, whether people show up or not, because this is taped. This is going to be available and accessible to folks who want to know the information if they just come and look for it. And of course, we're going to do that. One other thing I want to put out here is that Alicia and I just did a live show the last week. Now, we apologize for any issues with the audio because ideally what was supposed to happen was that we were going to have the room to ourselves and for our folks who bought tickets. But guess what? Our tickets did not get broadcasted in a timely manner as expected by the place that we were working through. So because of the fact that the information was not put out in a timely manner, we lost pretty much 3 days. So it ended up being only 2 days that ticket sales were being advertised. But we did have radio spots. However, if people don't listen to local radio and listen to satellite, that kind of hurts you as well. So we're going to take a different approach next time. But it was a good dry run is what I'm saying here.
Yeah, it was.
Lisa, give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, we needed that. We needed that. So we were able to identify, the areas of opportunity. So next time will be better, much better. So, yeah, it was fun. It was the experience humbled me because I thought I had my stuff together, but apparently I have a little bit of stage fright. But I needed that. So thank you, John. Got out of my system.
So did you find it easy once you settled down a little bit? Was it easy to start having the conversation with folks only because of the fact you had interaction?
Yes, I had to focus and just read what I wrote. I was getting things all mixed up. So yeah. Once I brought it back, I calmed down, and there was a little bit of laughter. I was good.
That was me laughing. I did it. I'm
grown. Yeah, John. Thanks.
But see, the laughter part of my part was the look on her face when what did you do? Did you accidentally give the answer you accidentally gave the answer inside of the
yes.
What was that? The not trick, not the message, the hint.
Yes. First I gave the wrong hint for that particular comment. So he had it right, but it was the wrong hint. And I said, hold on, what am I doing? So I read the wrong part of my layout. And then when I went to provide the charade style hints, I gave it away. I said it.
If y'all could have been there for this.
Oh gosh, like, I wanted to sink into the floor. I was so embarrassed.
And I was helping the floor. I'm telling you right, I was helping the floor.
Oh gosh.
And what made it a good moment is because everyone was laughing with her, not at her, which is also me egging the crowd on, but still, yeah. Everyone, we laughed with her because it was
they were good sports. They were good sports, absolutely. Yeah. We had a couple of nice families there participating, and they seemed like they had a great time.
Oh, so also, folks, had a little pocket change put for that. So we gave $50 to the first place winner, and then gave $25 to the second place winner, because we were going to just do 50, but then the other team started laying into that ass. So started wearing that tail out so bad. I think the end score ended up being like 8-2 or something like that.
It was 5-2. I think it was 5-2. Yeah, it was that back table.
I remember it was on fire. But it was 5-2, 3/4 of the way. That's why I'm saying it seemed like. Remember, it was 5-2, and then they got 3 more questions right, because right about that time, that's when the waitress kept coming back in, and I had to stop for a moment when we started the second.
Okay.
Round, but the waitresses started coming in some of the shots, and then by the time it ended, it was like 8-2. And then there was this back and forth when I was doing my part also, because the waitress was getting the orders wrong.
Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of what had to do was that the second table started scoring so low. They were frustrated because they didn't get their fried chicken and everything like they expected to.
Oh, do you think that was? Oh boy, you think that was it?
I just threw that in there because I'd be mad if I ordered my food isn't right, and then I'm trying to concentrate, and every time you come back, you've got it wrong. Yeah, I may have problems concentrating.
She made several trips, right? Back and forth.
Oh, yes, she did. And remember the exchange? You don't remember the exchange?
Yeah, the customer was saying you got my order wrong.
Yeah, every time you better have my orders wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, needless to say, the next time we do this, we are going to rent out probably some space at a hotel like most people do when they have their family reunions or small conferences. So I'm thinking that we'll get a small room. That way we can control the sound, because the other issue is that we had a DJ on the other side of the club.
Yeah, there was a wedding. Yeah, there was a wedding, and it was they were doing it. They were doing it. R&B. They were doing the couple up there grinding and everything. Happily married.
All of this was going on the other side, and being that we were in the small room in the back of the establishment, every bit of the sound from that side of the room was crashing where we were. So imagine you've got this big room over here, and you've got the small room over here, and all that sound from a room this side was ending up inside of a room this size. Now imagine that type of sound where it's just all just drowning in, and I heard that the audio was horrible. So my bad. We really didn't expect that because all the dry runs we had up to that, the sound was good. We didn't have any issues, but everything changes on the night of. So as a result, we'll do better next time, and we'll go ahead and make sure that we have ourselves our own space that we can control the environment better. Yeah. All right, so that's a little bit that I will say here, but nonetheless, I appreciate anyone who's checked the videos. Make sure that you subscribe to both myself and to Alicia as well. Oh, by the way, Alicia has got some new graphics for her show. So shout out Player One for her new graphics.
Wait. No, we aren't going to use those yet. I still have to send Player One some sketches because I want to alter it a bit. I'm trying to find a what's the term? It's not application. I guess a software or a service where I can turn 2D images into 3D images. I may have to do it myself, which I'm trying to avoid because it's so time consuming. And if so, that's the bulk of my weekend. Because I told Player One I would get him the sketches soon.
I thought there was something inside of Microsoft, either if not Office or even locally, that you might be able to do that. Or if not, there should be some type of free application that you should be able to use for a few times. But if you do, a lot of them still put a watermark on it. So ideally, so I would say that if you could, maybe use something along those lines to give Player One an idea of what you want. Yeah. And then when he does it, of course,
I want him to add his style.
Yep, that was pretty tight when I saw it. You showed me.
Right, nice. You see all the hair.
Yeah, looking around the animals and the way the question marks were in the background. Yeah, I may have to play a little bit around with that AI, but I'm very cautious because everybody knows here, John Connor tried to warn us. It was the software.
Oh, Terminator.
It was the software. All right.
Boy. Yeah, so hopefully soon. And keep an eye out.
So let me go ahead. You're welcome. Got to make sure we let people know about what we got going. And I'm just going to share the whole screen. No audio. Actually, I take that back. I will need audio. That being said, let me stop here. So again, the topic tonight, the loss of vigilance in Black culture. So if you were born in the 80s, then these first few clips may not either. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, 1984.
I have my waiver, invisible waiver.
So for those of you watching here in the replay, if you are not familiar with Geraldo Rivera before he started working with Fox News, Geraldo Rivera had his own talk show back in the 80s. Now, the thing here back in the 80s is that when you had conversations about racism, we had what was left over from Jim Crow. I mean, it was still top shelf racism, and depending on where you were, but it was still there. We still had elements of racism. So what I want to do is just play a quick clip here so folks get an idea of what we had back in the day. We're talking about Ku Klux Klan members, people from all type of racist organizations coming on talk shows. And this was back in the day where you could actually use racial epithets. You can call folks, ninjas, or we know ninjas, not what I mean. You can call people the equivalent of flying kites in the air. If you're talking about, this is back where people would use racial epithets. And most of that you saw back then, you could find on Sunday night watching Archie Bunker.
Oh, Archie was awful.
Archie Bunker or George Jefferson. But between those two, that's where a lot of the racism, or at least the remembrance of racism. And of course,
he was so horrible to his wife.
And I can't forget Good Times. I think those were the only three shows where I can recall racial epithets being thrown back and forth. So Norman Lear cornered the market back in the day with that type of nonsense. But it wasn't until the late 80s to the early 90s where they finally tamped down on that, to where you rarely hear anything of any type of racial slur too often on television. But back in the 70s and 80s, it was not uncommon to hear someone get called ninja at least a couple times a week in a TV show. But I digress. So as I've said before, I'm not worried about getting any copyright strikes because nobody's making any money over here just yet.
Oh, there's the stash.
Yeah, I told you. Look at that. This is 1988. Take notice now. Skinheads on set. So like I said, I'm not going to play this entire 11 minutes, but I just want you to get a look here and see what starts it off. So let me know if you can hear this.
Are truly hate-filled. They are self-described racists.
Now, can you hear that?
Yes.
All right. So again, let's go ahead and get our introductions in.
White supremacists, Nazi lovers, and they admit to resorting to violence if they think it's necessary to get their hate-filled message across. But who are their real victims? Take a look at this man's face. His name is William Stump, and he, his wife, and their little baby were attacked by 5 violent skinheads just a few days ago here in New York City. Let me just say that we tried to bring you this show a few weeks ago, but because their hatred begets hatred in others, our guests, the skinheads and their allies, were themselves attacked outside our studio by an angry mob of Jewish radicals. Now, since we refuse to be censored by them or by anybody, and because we feel exposure will weaken the following these racists enjoy, today you will hear from these angry young men. Meet John Metzger of the White Aryan Resistance Youth. He says that whites must learn to keep themselves separate from the evil blacks and Jews. Bob Hike. He's the director of the American Front. Although he's got some hair on his head, he's a skinhead in heart, and he believes that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were heroes. Michael Palish of the Skinheads of the National Resistance. He says our country has been invaded by the Hispanics, raped and deceived by the Jews, and maligned and fornicated on by the blacks.
Any of that sound familiar?
Wow. It doesn't seem like they're agreeing with what Geraldo's saying.
The reason why they're not agreeing is because what they're saying is out in public. It's being seen by others. See, the thing that was big with these guys back when I was growing up, I was 18 years old back then. So this is back then where you were getting less and less of the Ku Klux Klan burning crosses in people's yards, or the lynchings that they were doing. All that has started to subside. We're talking almost now 23 years after the fall of Jim Crow. So Jim Crow fell in the United States in 1965. That's after the Voting Rights Act was passed. So once the Voting Rights Act was passed, that pretty much meant that, okay, we've had the 1964 Civil Rights Act passed the year prior. So blacks have rights. Now we have protections. Not that it wasn't mentioned before, but it had to be re-ratified because there were numerous civil rights acts that came after the Civil Rights Act of starting in 1865, the Reformation Acts. Remember in Reconstruction that we talked about, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. So you had others that came through, but the latest one was in 1964. So what you're seeing now is guys who are hearing and they know what they're doing is wrong. But when they're amongst themselves, it doesn't sound so bad. It's like when you say, "Ah, shit, that sounded better in my head." Now, I want you to think of that.
Like my singing.
Forgive me, folks. You don't want to watch in the replay, but still, you get the point across. You got the message across. I'll put it there.
Yes.
Hey, you, Miss Newboot. But nonetheless, when you see these skinheads look away or look down or do, it's because of the fact they are now hearing what they've been saying out loud or to each other. Now is the opportunity that someone else has to hear their bitter, forgive my language, this bitter bullshit and racism. All right, fair use.
these people really believe those perverted statements. We'll find out the meaning behind their message, if there is one. And we'll meet some people who say that our guests are pathological misfits. Truly dangerous young men. Young racists. Are these angry young men merely looking for attention? Or do they represent something much more dangerous? That's our focus on this edition of Geraldo.
Easy, all white, you know.
Bob Hike, right?
All right, so this is the portion where they identified and introduced themselves, but they bring a few other folks out here. Let me see if I can find the directors. No, that's going to be another segment because there was a fight that was in the studio.
Oh,
so there was a fight.
Boy.
Now you had someone who's the head of a Jewish organization and also a brother who was part of the NAACP. I don't think he was directly with them, but he was one of the folks who was there against what these guys were preaching. And as was to be expected, oh yeah, we had...
I have more questions to address to our three panelists, but before I do, let me introduce...
So let me do this real fast. Let me go ahead and move this up to where the instance of the fight broke out. All right, so I think this would be a good spot right here. So again, let me know if you can hear what's being spoken.
I was thrown at.
He was arrested for a felony. A felony. Wait, hold it. Here we are. Question.
All right, so what happened here is that when you got the other two gentlemen on the stage who were tracking the skinheads and their behavior and their methodologies, it came to pass that the young man at the back had been in trouble with the law. I mean, of course, you would expect that from people who behave in the way that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So he was more or less retorting, well, you know, well, that hasn't been proven. That, well, I haven't been to court for that just yet. So, you know, I'm not a criminal. But he'd had run-ins with the law nonetheless. So I didn't want to, as I said, take too much time from this, but I just wanted to show how brazen that these folks were back then to speak what they felt like on live air and think nothing would happen. So this is where F around and find out probably first came to pass on public television. I'll leave you with that right there. All right. So
boy.
F around and find out was born during my lifetime on this show. Fair use.
I reportedly served time for felony.
I'd like to know if you're so, if
You
your
wouldn't
beliefs,
remember anyway.
if you have true belief in your convictions and your movement is as good and as powerful as you say it is.
Again, can you hear this?
Yes.
All right, fair use, fair use.
Why are you afraid to let other people speak? Why are you not like other minorities and allow other people to pursue whatever happiness they find in whatever religion they find, whatever color they happen to be? You don't let anybody answer a question. And if you don't have a question like this lady over here, you tell her to shut up. What are you afraid of?
The reason why I do that is because I get sick and tired of hearing the sob stories from kikes. I get sick and tired of seeing Uncle Tom here sucking up, trying to be a white man.
Go ahead, Roy. Go ahead.
Now, let me tell you.
Sit down.
Hey, you gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. You gotta be kidding. Hey, hold it. Hold it.
Sit down.
What is that lady doing?
Let's go to a station break, Tom.
What was that, John?
So let's go to a station break, Tom.
Oh my gosh. What happened to Geraldo? It was happening too fast. Who hit him?
Oh, so when the fight started, one of the kids picked up a chair.
Okay, I saw that. Okay. Oh,
and he happened to be right there when the chair flew by. Yeah. That is how brazen that these skinheads were back in the day.
Mm.
So that's when I tell folks here, y'all don't know what racism looks like for those of you born in the 80s and 90s past that, because it's been rather tame. When Top Cat is up here with me and we talk about elements of racism, he speaks about when he said that he had a family member that was lynched by the Klan. So that's why I take it extremely personal the way I do when I hear our young black men calling to the, oh, what up, ninja? What up, ninja? Yeah, that's my ninja. You don't see anyone of the Jewish face walking around saying, what's up, K-word? Do you see that? You don't see Asians or even Hispanics for the most part, unless we don't see it, but still just publicly like black people are, just using a racial epithet that is meant to disparage us. You don't see that in the community, only within our community. And if we dare say something to anyone about it, man, we trying to be white. What's wrong with you, man? I'm showing love for my ninja.
Yep.
But I'll go ahead and I'll just halt it right there. But you get pretty much what I'm alluding to here, right?
Mm-hmm. And then you can't expect hundreds and hundreds of years of like ingrained hatred to just vanish overnight. It's going to take time. It's going to take time and a lot of work. So that's what's scary about it. That it's so hidden, you know.
Now it wasn't hidden for the most part back then. It was. Am I breaking up? Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it wasn't hidden. It was blatant. Now remember, even though this is 85, about 23 years away from the fall of Jim Crow, the sentiment was still there. Oprah Winfrey, maybe about a month or so earlier or later, had done a show about an all-white town that made it clear they did not want black people there. This is where you got the expression sundown towns from. Well, not from that particular town, but you had the saying of sundown towns. These were towns that blacks were told, hey, you better not be here when sun goes down. Drive in, get your gas, whatnot. Hey, boy, what you need? Just getting gas. All right, well, you get your gas and get on from around here. But that's the type of attitude that you would get. Now, it's not as prevalent across the U.S. as it once was, but you have these pockets that still exist where you can get responses like that. So
think about the Green Book now. The Green Book, the Traveling Guide.
So here we have Huey Newton, one of the founding members of the Black Panther Party, who did things for their local neighborhoods. Of course, there were food drives, education, things that was being done for the community. But you still had J. Edgar Hoover and the folks bird dogging them for the most part. And there was a time when, yes.
Oh, what wasn't he drugged and they broke into his home and shot him while he was asleep, while his pregnant girlfriend was there? Is that whom I'm thinking of?
I'm not sure when I think of pregnant girlfriend, but I tell you what, you may have to go to Google it. But let's put it. So, but the main thing here is prominence. When you look at civil rights, you had to remember what I'm saying is you had people who are standing up for the rights and protections that we had people that went out in the streets, sat at the bars, or I shouldn't say the bars, but sat at the restaurants, at the bar of the restaurants with delicatessens, trying to be served, knowing that we wouldn't be served. You had the dogs that were released on during some of the marches. You had the Selma March. Remember also when you had the issue with Rosa Parks. You have all these moments in history where Blacks were taken to the streets and making it known that we have rights. We live here also. We want to be treated the same. Although there was going to be resistance, there was resistance. But what I'm doing here is showing folks who were a part of that. John Lewis, this is very, very young John Lewis here. Remember him from Good Trouble, as he stated. He died some years ago, but he was last of the civil rights activists who was there with Martin Luther King. Of course, everybody knows who this is. Martin Luther King. These are mugshots, obviously. Of course, and then we have Malcolm X, not affiliated directly with the civil rights movement, but towards the end, the back in 1964, after the bill was passed, he and Martin did have some words of kindness, although they stood on opposite sides about how to get there. But after his trip to the Holy Land, he came back a different person. So he began to see how the struggle for civil rights needed to be something he associated himself with. But I think I may do a separate story on Malcolm X, or probably the four folks, and start looking at the Freedom Riders as well as any other folks who were affiliated with it at the time, because believe it or not, there were white folks who were with the black folks.
A lot of them were taken out too.
And for association with the black folks, or the coloreds, or say, they lost their lives in the incidents as well.
Even religious leaders that were deleted.
So I will ask a question, since it seems like it just may be you and me riding this out. Let's go ahead and do this. So what aspects of civil rights do you recognize are at risk of being lost right now? Now, I know this may be a little bit of a bone or a bone on bone pulling teeth in, because as you said, you're a little disconnected from what's going on here. So this is why I was hoping that I have the others out here to assist with this. Now, if you're not familiar or overly, then I'll field the question, but I just at least want to put it out here so anyone who is watching this in the replay gang will have the ability to think about the questions themselves. So at least we'll ask the questions, but we'll look and see if anyone takes it for action to probably reply back in the replay. So again, what aspects of civil rights do you recognize are at risk of being lost? And if you're not sure, then I'll go ahead and answer the question from my perspective.
I think primarily the strides that were made in desegregating. I think that would be the main one.
Yep.
The protections we've had against racist systems and programs and things of that nature. Yeah, those would be I think those would affect us the most, because we'll be cut off from resources that we need, because we don't have our own, and for the most part, we don't have our own. So
yeah, this goes back to the conversation we were having yesterday about when you look at it, what we don't have fully as our own at the moment as we once did. Now think about this: when you had Black Wall Street, you had Rosewood, you had all these towns that were doing fine by themselves. When you hear
Idlewild,
there's another one. When you hear racists saying, why can't black people take it upon themselves to build their own communities? So why do we always have to be ones in support of it? Well, the reason here is that when blacks built their own communities, the racist mobs burned them down, shot, killed, and hung both black and white men who were affiliated with that.
So many Tulsas.
Going back to any other time, I can say this town here in North Carolina, where they got rid of a duly elected Democratic government, a mixture of blacks and whites. and they ran them out of town. A racist mob ran them out of town, threatened hanging for those who left. Those who didn't leave were shot. Some were still hung, but basically they staged a coup. It was a full-on insurrection. So insurrection is not new to America. It was an insurrection in that town that ran out the duly elected government that was an interracial duly elected government. And that government right now is still in place today based on them running out the duly elected members. So the question that I once asked folks was, if we had folks who went back to that town and attempt to take it back over, what would be the response? Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm saying that in today's environment, if someone dared to go back and attempt to take this town back over the way that it was taken over back in either 1890, in between 1894 and 1898, what would be the response? And I'm sure we all know what would happen. National Guards, troops, bullets, and everything flying. But as of right now, every election that is held there since that time period has been in the hands of the insurrectionist government. That is bugging me. Give me a second here, at least. That is bugging.
Oh, so I was going to ask, do you know, and other than just racism and hatred, do you know why were there particular resources there that were
No, it had nothing to do with that. It was pure. This is 1800s. This is 19th century. It was purely racism. It's purely racism.
All right.
North Carolina town.
Oh, am I thinking of Greenwood? I must be thinking. I'm sure I'm thinking of something else.
Wilmington. Wilmington, North Carolina. Here was 1898. So again, not really what I was planning to put in here, but it still fits to the narrative of what I'm talking about when we're talking and discussing civil rights. Can you see that? So it was Wilmington, North Carolina. The North Carolina town was taken over by racists in a coup. Was Wilmington in 1898. The event is known as the Wilmington Coup of 1898 or the Wilmington Massacre of 1898. Just a second. So I've still got my Invisalign retainers in. One moment.
Allow me to read.
Yes, and let me make that a little bit larger if you want.
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, that's better. Here's a summary. What happened? A mob of armed white men, fueled by a white supremacy campaign and false claims of black maleficence?
Malfeasance.
Malfeasance spread through. Can you increase it a little bit more? I know I'm blind, John. Thank you.
Oops.
Oh, that's good. It's good. Where's it? Black malfeasance spread through racist propaganda and fear-mongering, overthrew the city's legitimately elected fusionists, which is a biracial government. Violence and displacement. They expelled opposition political leaders, both black and white, destroyed black-owned businesses and property, including the local black newspaper, the Daily Record, and killed at least 14 and potentially hundreds of black residents. Many black residents were forced to flee the city, and some never returned. The impact. This event marked a turning point in North Carolina history, leading to an era of more severe racial segregation and the elective disenfranchisement of black citizens, ushering in the Jim Crow era in the state. The number of black voters registered in North Carolina plummeted from 126,000 in 1896 to 6,100 in 1902. Historical memory. The true nature of these events was suppressed for decades and initially referred to as a race riot, but they use that all the time. But a state commission report in 2006 debunked those false narratives, and the event is now more accurately described as a massacre and a coup d'etat. pronounce that right? Data.
Yeah, cool state. So this is that information that I try and get known or made known to folks that, again, we don't really get a chance to hear that because everybody's concerned about who is the leader in the relationship and what is her body count. And that just keeps ricocheting back and forth between a lot of shows.
Distractions.
Yeah, I think somebody was having a show today. I can't remember who it was. I remember seeing it on YouTube talking about being in the friend zone. But how many times can we have these conversations and not look at the main ones when we look around at what's happening right now? Again, Donald Trump has deployed the National Guard, taken over a city, and there was no need to do that. But we've seen the factor of blacks not being active, not looking at the level of vigilance that should be applied, that is allowing this to happen. Because we have, for whatever reason, lost sight of that. And so I want to look at three things today. The first, we're looking at civil rights actions. The second will be looking at how religion may play a part into it. And the third one is just looking at social media for itself. So that one, I'm not going to have any stated questions put together. We're just going to go ahead and freestyle that one. Not that we normally don't do that, but still, I thought I'd just have a little bit of structure this time around. So that was the first question. But again, this is bugging me. I just wanted to get it out here that Wilmington, North Carolina was a town that was overthrown in an insurrection, right? A coup d'etat. And that government that overthrew them is still in place to this moment right now. Nobody's done anything about it. All right, so the second question.
No apologies, nothing. Everybody's apologizing now.
No, they were. They're not apologizing anymore. Remember that there are no apologies anymore. If they got votes, why are you doing this? Because we got the votes and we can't. That's the response that you're getting. Number two, is there a feeling you hold that civil rights education, although present, was lacking during your life? Again, I'll say it. Is there a feeling you hold that civil rights education, although present, was lacking during your life?
Yes, 100% lacking. 100%.
Expand on that, please.
In my household, everyone was concerned with surviving. There wasn't a desire for learning about anything other than how to pay the bills and how to eat and keep the roof over our head. So as kids, we went to school and that was essentially it. I was fortunate that I had my grandmother until I was 12, and she encouraged my passion for learning as much as she could. I don't think she had a very high level of education, but she had that love, and she obviously loved us. So, and I was call myself the white sheep of the family because I was the one who was interested in reading and, and learning about different things other than what was on BET or whatever. So yeah, that was not taught in our household. I don't recall it being taught at school at all. Yeah, I've had to learn a lot of it on my own in my adulthood, especially as a homeschool teacher, So no, it was not present.
I had a conversation with my father a couple of weeks ago describing what we're talking about right now. This is where the conversation that we're having came from. It came from the fact of me now being where I am in life, being a 55-year-old man, looking back over my lifetime and asking the question, how is it that we have people standing in the streets being hit with rocks, being hit with batons, sprayed with water, dog attacks? All this was what they felt was required to get us the rights that we have right now. We have that because of those sacrifices. But now you can't get Generation Y or Generation Z overall to stand and look at this as being a threat because they are 30 years or so removed from that. A lot of them who were born, let's say in the mid 80s to the 90s. A lot of them are about 25 to 30 years removed from these events. So therefore, it doesn't register to them because in their minds, well, I have a white friend that I go over and play baseball with, or I have a white friend who comes over to my house and we play Xbox, or I can go to the movie theaters and the group of all my friends are white, black, and whatever. And so, yeah, what are you talking about? Racism. They've never seen what I've seen. I put it that way. Not saying that it's the most gruesome, but I remember racism when I was young. I remember how it could be expressed like, hey, what's going on? Hey, nigga, move. These kids, obviously their parents are racist. Even though I was on a military installation at the time, the kids would sometimes speak like this. Of course, we had our fights, we had our disagreements here and there, but still it was blatant, just out of their mouths. And when we went home to visit our grandparents, when my father was on a remote assignment someplace overseas, and I go back to our small town in Tennessee, oh yeah, you will get the whole aspect of it. No issue. That in the hallway, in the school, in the lunchroom, they were careful not to do it in the classroom because teachers still had to make it known that the behavior is inappropriate. But you'd hear it. You'd hear it. I think I mentioned this at one particular episode you and I may have been on. You may not have been there, but I talked about how I was at a baseball game. I was playing in one of the local teams in the area, and one of the kids who was what people would call, white trash, because everyone had blacks have our projects, whites know who theirs look like. Well, he was one of theirs. So we were standing around, and he went to school in a different county, but he was still in the baseball team because his father teached the team. And he was talking about how he'd done something in school, and the principal told him, hey, you need to come here. And the kid said, you know what? And this old nigger principal thought he could tell me that I need to come here and do something. And I'm looking at him just the way the kid said the K word, like it was nothing. But this was 1982. Yeah, I think it was the summer of 82. I remember this going on.
Now I've had very few experiences with racism. I feel like I've seen it more than I've experienced it personally. I've been a waitress. I was a waitress for like over 20 years. So I met a lot of people. As far as customers, you can hear them talk and the way they treated me, especially the men, my fellow coworkers. I don't know if you're familiar with like serving Black folks. Yeah, they try not to let their feelings be known in my presence, but you could see little things slip out here and there. When I was like around the corner, I would hear comments about the black customers, the use of the N-word, things of that nature. As far as myself, not too much. I remember once I was at a bus stop and it was a bunch of white guys and in a pickup truck. They're like in the pickup truck, right? Right. And they drive by, they go, nigger. I'm like, oh, okay, really? People still do that? But yeah, very, very few.
So this was the time period where blacks were, well, depending on where you grew up, you had folks like, oh no, don't be doing that. Don't get nothing started to your grandparents. Don't do nothing. Don't get them coming over here. Don't get the white folks coming over here. Just go on about your business. Go on about your business, baby. So they were accustomed to putting their heads down and walking away and letting it go. But as we know now, as today, it doesn't work that way anymore. I said, what does it say? I am not my ancestor. I am not my grandma or my granddaddy. You will get this. Walk this way with this nonsense.
Oh, see, I think I was telling you this recently. My grandmother was a kind spirit. She always had, first of all, our house was full, aunties, cousins, uncles, whatnot. But she always had somebody else living with us, short term. And there were a few white people, white families, singles and families. At one point, they're Black families too. I don't think we ever had any Hispanics, but there was an Asian family. That's the first time I saw some Asian folks as a kid. And it just, I was just intrigued. it was a little Asian boy and their family. But I guess that helped me in a sense. Not that I'm a cruel person by nature anyway, but I guess that helped to open my viewpoint of the world, especially where I'm from, because it was predominantly Black. So yeah, thanks, Grandma. Love you.
So I myself grew up in a military environment. I've been on a military base for the greater part of my entire life, to include my adult life. So there's only so many years that I spent living around civilians for the most part. I attended civilian school or public school in spots here and there, but the majority of my education was part of a private school system, the Department of Defense Dependent Schools, or DODS as they called it. So my education was primarily a private education, to where I didn't have any more than maybe 15, if they were pushing it, maybe maximum 20 kids in the classroom, if that. But ideally, it was a minimum of 15 kids or so in a classroom. So there was never an issue of fighting, to whereas you go to some places and I believe they have 35 or something like that kids in one classroom. I'm like, what in the hell? And I remember going to public school in Florida. And this was after being in a public school system for about a year and a half in my hometown, where you had 25, 30 kids and about 20, 25 kids in one class. But you got to some areas where there was 30 kids or so. And there was also the level of disrespect that was shown towards the teachers. So this is something that I wasn't accustomed to. Now let's now add to this the racism aspect of it from the kids as well. But overall, even then, I remember when the Martin Luther King holiday was first being discussed. I can still remember that when it came about, because it started around 84, where discussions came in about it, 85 or 86, where they finally passed it. And I remember there were kids who did not come to school that day, and they were marked as absent when they had the very first Martin Luther King holiday. Now, my parents still made me go to school at the time. But I remember there were some kids, Black, who did not come to school because, hey, it's a holiday. I mean, sure, I'll be marked as absent, but so what? It's King holiday. It wasn't until it was fully ratified down the road and accepted that people started understanding, look, this is a legitimate holiday. The first one, I mean, even the first day, it was legitimate, but a lot of folks were fighting against it. I remember it was Edward Meacham. I want to say the governor in Arizona was fighting it. Yeah, but that's been 30 some odd years. So I'd have to really go back to the books and look at that. But the whole thing here is that I recognize that there was still that level of vigilance that was still there up to about maybe the 90s, because in the mid 80s, it was still something that people showed support for, hence why their children were not in school. There was even the video that you had Curtis Blow. I think Kumo D may have been in it. Stacey Lattisaw, New Edition, where they talked about holiday, King holiday. Have you ever seen that video?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, this is, you know what? Strike me down. I don't care. Hey, give me a second. Strike me down.
Okay.
Hey, you hear me saying strike me down? Keep that here for the next one. Oh yeah, keep that for the next topic here.
Okay.
MLK holiday song. I think King Dream Cars. Yeah, here we go. Make sure that I've got the right video here. I'm not going to play all of this, but still, I just want you to know if you're not familiar, and if there are others who are young, I'm going to say that right now for you young folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had stuff like this back in the day.
Hey, Marcus.
Welcome to the Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change. The center is the living legacy to Dr. King and his dream.
He had a dream?
Oh, yes. He had a dream for freedom, justice, and equality for all people, everywhere.
What's this?
This is the Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Dr. King for his nonviolent work.
What's that?
That's the proclamation declaring Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday a national holiday, a holiday for peace.
Was Dr. King a good man? Was he a smart man? Was he a kind man?
Yes, he was all of these things.
How come you know so much about him? Yeah.
Because he was also my father.
Oh.
So the no, that noise, that was the Fat Boy. I don't know if you remember the Fat Boys, but Buffy died, I think, in '89. And a shout out here, Marcus Evans is in the cut with us. What's going on, Marcus?
Hey, Marcus, how are you?
Wrong one. Yeah, so I just saw that I lost that. Hope I didn't wait too late to acknowledge that.
VH1 Soul. That's my hair. Oh, it's a tree.
VH1 Soul. I don't know if they still do that or not, but
Oh gosh.
Mark was asking, was that the 80s? Yeah, man, that's the 80s. Fair use.
Oh boy.
Houdini. Curtis Blow. Melly Mel. That boy. Run BMC. Nudo.
Oh, okay.
New Edition. Casey Lattisaw. That's Full Force in the background. Also.
Wow, I do not remember this.
You were only 2 years old, so you wouldn't remember this. 1986. I was 16 back then. So this is what I mean by Black vigilance was still there in the 80s because it was still close to that period where Jim Crow had ended, although be it about maybe 21 years prior, but it was still there at that point. Oh, check out Marcus says timeless music. Let me go ahead and blow that up here for a second. And I smile. I haven't looked at this video in I don't know how many decades, but I still remember all the folks up in there, man. I still remember all the people who were part of that. So this is when you look back and you realize that there was a level of Black vigilance that was hanging on by a thread. It was almost on its way out at that point in time, but it was still there if people were supporting elements such as this, the holiday for Martin Luther King. You had a lot of people bickering about it who did not want this to happen. But this happened during the time of Ronald Reagan. This happened in Ronald Reagan's second administration.
Now I'm thinking, I'm not aware. I wonder if there was pushback with the Juneteenth holiday.
Oh, of course. There's always going to be some pushback for that. Oh, and Mark is saying there's still some vigilance. And yes, some. And the point I'm making here, Mark, well, I agree there's some, but it's not to the effect of what it used to be when I was a kid. As I said before, I was born in 1970. I was born 5 years after Jim Crow had fallen, but it didn't happen overnight to where the Jim Crow effect had gone away. We're talking about even still in the mid 80s, there were still the elements that we saw. Matter of fact, if you recall, remember that fight on Geraldo about 2 years later. Marcus, by the way, if you have a minute, man, go ahead and scroll back at the beginning of the show. If you want to come back and catch up, we took a look at Geraldo Rivera's 1988 instance where he had a fight in his live show because he had some skinheads insulting a couple of black and white civil rights activists. Or you can catch it in the replay. All right, so here's question number 3. I know we've been dragging here, but we may want to go ahead and pick it up here. Number 3, do you feel Gen Y and Gen Z revere civil rights in the same capacity as was experienced by the silent generation, which was 1933 to 1948? These are the years they were born. The baby boomers, 1949 to 1964, and Gen X, 1965 to 1980. Again, do you feel Gen Y and Gen Z revere civil rights in the same capacity as was experienced by the silent generation, baby boomers, and Gen X?
No, because they aren't being taught. They aren't being taught. They aren't being exposed to what happened to our people. And it's difficult enough to develop that connection to something when you haven't experienced it personally. But when you aren't, constantly, when it isn't constantly being reinforced how important that it is, the past, present, and future, of our people, then yeah, no, they're not going to revere it. They're not going to revere it.
And that's the main piece that I talk about when I speak of the disconnect. Again, how you can have our young black men and women walk around, call each other ninja. Like, yo, what up, ninja? I look at panels like grown men saying to women, oh, ninja. Of course, again, we know I mean nigger, but nonetheless, calling a girl ninja. What are you doing? A grown woman ninja. She's like, oh, ninja, saying it back to him. Like, what are y'all doing? But I realized that it's a generation thing, because the majority of folks that I see who behave like that are 15 or 20 years younger than me. They don't have the memories of racism like I may have, or someone from Gen X or from the baby boomer generation. And then those last few folks from the silent generation. My father was born in 1946. So if I'm 55, 75, 76, 77. So my father will be 78 years old this year. So I've had my father and my mother my entire life. So when I look at it from the perspective, when we say, what does Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z have in common with this? The fact of the matter is that they don't. And that is not on them per se, but my father said that was a failure on us.
Yeah. The parents have to essentially bombard their kids with the information. It needs to be a part of your everyday life. They need to be constantly learning.
Look down, Alicia, look down.
Oh, yeah.
He just, but go ahead and continue.
What did you say?
That.
What did you say? Mess around and find out. That's what mess around and find out.
Yeah. Dang, they called the brother Uncle Tom. Yeah. I appreciate it, man, about that. But yeah, I just wanted you to see that part. But you are continue on what you're talking about. When you're disconnected, you don't share that, and it's having to be bombarded for the most part. That was being missed. Please continue on, Alicia.
It needs to be a part of your everyday, your life, and inside the home. They're not going to get it outside. It really needs to be ingrained in who your family is. I tell Lo all the time, you don't have any excuses, because she knows what our people have gone through. So you don't have any excuses. You don't. All the sufferings, all of the accomplishments, all of the obstacles, all of it. And we do the chronological. So we've been back. We've been back through our story, and then constantly reinforcing it with not just verbally, but with your research, with videos, books, whatever works for your family. But we're big readers, so.
100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%
There's one, it was a good one that we picked up in the library. Oh gosh, what's it called? It told the story of like 4 or 5 enslaved folks and their escape to freedom. Let's see here. There was Henry Bibb, Harriet Jacobs. Harriet Jacobs hid like in a little crawl space in the attic for I want to say like 7 years, something of that nature. Forgive me, brother. I know I'm going to butcher your name. Adullah. He was a prince, a young prince, kidnapped from the motherland, and how he gained his independence, his freedom. So many different stories, and the ingenious ways our people had to survive and escape, and the sacrifices they made. Very often they had to, like with Henry Bibb, he had to leave his family, his wife and daughter behind. He tried to escape without them, with them, but for whatever reason they were captured. This needs to be a part of your everyday life. And even still again, a struggle because, like anything, if you don't experience it firsthand, it could be difficult making that connection. That's why you got to start young.
It happens to you.
You start young and you teach them when they're young, and you continue. You don't stop. So that's my 2 cents, if it counts for anything.
So I will say on top of that, again, Generation Y and Generation Z, there's been a failure on why I look at it still Gen X, because some of my Gen X padres who had children early, like at 13 and some of them at 14, who had kids. And then there's some of us who are in our 20s who had children. And the movement of civil rights was starting to wane in the early to mid 90s, because you had the culture of hip hop that was coming up. Now, you still had conscious hip hop. Don't get me wrong. You had Boogie Down Productions. You had, of course, Public Enemy. You had Arrested Development. You have those conscious groups that were there towards the beginning. Well, not the very, very beginning, but let's say if we go back to 82, 83, 84, where you had hip hop in its infancy. You did have some rappers who rapped a little bit about where we came from, but it wasn't really something that was taken to heart until 89, 90. Again, when Public Enemy came out, that's when you really started hearing things and you started having that mixture. But the problem was that gangster rap came out around the same time, a little bit before, a little bit after. And the gangster rap appeal started appealing more to our people, more so than the message of maintaining civil rights and looking at what it took to get us to where we were. Now, I'm not throwing rocks or anything at gangster rap, but I will say that right there is where we started losing the aspect of our civil rights. And, or when I say losing the aspects, or being cognizant of what was being said, and it was taken over by the thug style that you started seeing. And once that came in, it was rare to see a group that talked about aspects of civil rights in the community. When you've got Ice Cube, you've got before he went on by himself for a little bit, but you've got NWA. You've got some of the other groups out here who are pushing gangster rap, the individual rappers themselves that are pushing this. And then all of a sudden, what has happened to the message? It's not there anymore. It's been replaced by something else that we are being known for. But the problem is, yes, that Generation Y and Z were failed because the folks who were around when we got our civil rights, or when civil rights was achieved, starting in Generation X's lifetime, everyone was so busy partaking in the new civil rights that had been achieved for us by us, that we didn't think about a way to sustain it for us. Hence why right now we have that issue, whereas we have nobody left right now unless there's some type of resurgence that occurs to stand and face off against the civil rights that we're losing right now. Again, diversity has been taken away from Black history. We're looked at as being racist, divisionist, revisionist for the most part. Our history is slanderous to white Americans. Now, I grew up with white Americans from the first day I opened my eyes for the most part, and Hispanic Americans, Latino Americans, Muslim Americans. These are people who joined the U.S. military, folks that I grew up around, that I don't look at them and think of their color first. Although I know they're a different color, I know that they're Air Force family blue like I am. That's what I see. But unfortunately, when I look at Facebook or some of the other social media engines out here, some of those folks that I thought were Air Force blue family like I am are not at all. I had one of the classmates I went to school with. What did he call me? Got into this was back during Trump's first presidency. He called me something. You're just a dumb ghetto baby or something like that.
Oh boy.
Yeah, of course they always do it across the internet or something like for the most part. But this is the sentiment that had always been in the background. But nonetheless, overall, let's get out of this segment because we've been here way longer than expected, but it's been good conversation nonetheless. What is your perspective when we talk about the loss of vigilance in Black culture? Would you say that it is definitive that when we look at vigilance in the Black culture regarding civil rights, do you think that is up or is it down?
Oh, way down. Far, way down. You know, everyone's more concerned about the brand of their shoes and the purse or, you know, their IG or whatnot. You know, it doesn't matter to a lot of people.
All right. So going forward, all right. So we'll talk about the loss of vigilance in Black culture regarding
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun. So let me throw this out here right off the bat. Let's go ahead and get into it. Rip the Band-Aid off. Has Black culture been susceptible to being misled due to religious belief? One more time. Has Black culture been susceptible to being misled due to religious belief?
Yes, is yet another distraction. Absolutely.
Build on it.
Well, you don't have to take accountability for your own actions if you put all of your belief into belief. So, yeah.
All right. So let me go ahead and fill this in here. So what most people fail to realize is that faith is nothing more than the belief in the non-existent. Now, this is not going to come off well to any folks who have a strong faith in Jesus or whatnot, because Jesus is my rock. But what people fail to realize, and this is going to rub folks the wrong way, but you know, there's a lot of brazenness that I see in the Black community because of the misalliterations or the misattributions of life as it is due to the belief in religion. I just got to say it. The biblical character of Jesus did not exist. Now, as a disclaimer that I want to put out here right now, this is not Vacation Bible School. This is not Sunday school, right? This is not a Wednesday Bible study. Now, these are levels of facts that we're going to have in the discussion. I'm going to take a minute or so to show a couple of things here and a few more questions to illustrate my point. So as I was saying before, faith is nothing more than the belief in the non-existent. Belief itself is centered around a lack of accountability, a lack of facts, and a lack of historical records. So which means when you talk about all these supposed amazing acts of the biblical character Jesus that was conducted, you go back and look in the area where Jesus supposedly did this, there is no record of those actions ever happening. You look in those towns where supposedly, like Nazareth, at the time where all this was supposed to take place, Nazareth didn't even exist, like 1, 2 AD or whatever. That place was not even on the map, but still, you have all these writings that state of these amazing acts that were supposedly accomplished. But if you look at the local area surrounding where all this was supposed to take place, none of that is documented in any of the records. There's nothing in Roman files that discuss anything about the arrest, the trial, or the crucifixion of an individual by the name of Jesus Christ. The only place it exists is in religious scripture. Now, again, I wouldn't say this if I couldn't prove it, nor if there weren't proof already out there. But let's go a little bit further here. I won't take us too far down that path because, like I said, we hung out a long time in the civil rights deal. But, you know, damn it, that had to be done. That's right. We did it. So in the mid 16th century, I think I've had this discussion with you. You had an Irish cleric affiliated with the Roman Church through different levels, James Usher. Through the tools that were available to him at that time period, again in the mid 16th century, he deduced, oh, hey, I lost you. You still there? Stand by, folks. Alicia has gone missing. Now, this happened the other night when I had Chicago on the line where his internet went out. I am not sure what is happening right now. Alicia, if you're still there, hold on, folks. Sending her a private message.
John, can you hear me?
Yeah, what was that all about?
I don't know. This went black. Oh my goodness.
Well, if you need to, just drop and then come back in, or if you have a webcam, just pull the webcam out and plug it back in. But right now I can hear you. I just can't see you. But if it helps, I know what you look like.
Okay. All right. I should return in a minute, I hope.
All right. So I'll go ahead and hold it off here for a second. I don't know what this is. That's the second person that I've lost here after an hour or so on the block. But as I was saying here, yes, so we have a lot of issues here inside of Black culture where religion has played a part in a lot of the actions that we take, not realizing that the level of indoctrination that the Black culture had with religion came during the course of the slave trade. Now, prior to that, the level of Christianity that we speak of in the slave trade, for Africans being brought over, majority of Africans had never come in contact with Christianity. Oh, she's back. All right, you good? Can you hear us?
Gary. Yes, can you hear me?
There you go. Now I can. Yeah, your audio seemed like it was gone for a second.
Okay. Wow, the screen just went black. That was weird.
Yeah. So as I was saying here, that a lot of Africans had never come in contact with Christianity until the slave trade. At least we're talking on the the West Coast. So
yeah, on the West. Mm-hmm.
When the Africans came to America, people don't realize that Blacks did not come to America directly. So the first Africans, the very, very first ones, were taken to the Caribbeans. And I say this now because that's going to come up in the last section here.
As far as the slave trade is concerned.
Yeah, as far as the slave trade period, Blacks did not come directly over to America. Both you and I know this. We've had this discussion before. Blacks were first traded by the Portuguese and the Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So they were taken to the Caribbean. So we're talking about, again, Caribbean islands. You're talking about Jamaica. You're talking about Haiti. You're talking about South America.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they were taken there, the idea is that maybe we can have them be more productive if we take into a climate that is similar from where we took them from. Now that people right there is fact.
Sugar
But
cane. Sugar cane.
You'd be surprised how many black folks don't realize that black people did not come to be in a majority of where we were. We did not come to be in North America first. We did not come there
We're
first.
like 90% in Brazil and the Caribbean.
That's why when you go down there, you see a lot of dark-skinned folks. It's because of the slave trade. How many people right now at this moment that we're having this discussion do not even realize that when they try and say that, oh, people in the Caribbean, those aren't blacks, like, you idiots. Yes, they are, because black people got there from the slave trade. That is the first stop. The only reason that blacks were in America is because of the fact that 20 Africans were stolen off of a Spanish frigate by the English.
The White Lion. Yeah.
And they were stolen and brought to America. And then from there, hey, we started going back. We don't need the plug anymore. Back then, they gave the plug. When Spain stopped trafficking in blacks, that's when the English slave trading picked up. But again, when people try and say that, being Jamaican is not a race or whatever, the people down there are Afro-Caribbean. That is a fact. That is a stated fact. Is in print. So when you hear any of this foundational Black American bullshit, nonsense, excuse me, when you hear this foundational Black assery, do not let that seep into your bones. That's another level of vigilance we lose as blacks, listening to these social media lies.
Yeah, and those in the Caribbean are actually closer to those in the continent, because in the Caribbean the conditions were much more harsher, so they didn't get to reproduce like we could in the States. So they were constantly being replaced by fresh enslaved people from the continent. I think the average lifespan or the average time as an enslaved person was like maybe 10 years max. From the time they're little, they rarely even got to the point where they could reproduce health-wise. Everyone was sickly, malnourished, and whatnot. They would just replace them.
But at a certain point in time, it became a stable position to whereas there was experiments done by, as they like to call it, breeding with blacks.
Yeah, so here in Virginia, there were a couple of big breeding farms here in Virginia.
Yeah, most folks don't even know that part about history of blacks. But just understand what I'm saying here is that black folks are everywhere in the world. And I've got to say this right now, black folks are not native to North America. So don't let this foundational black bullshit, I'm just going to say it, seep into your system and believe that black people are native. There's no such thing as native black people. If there are any blacks on the North American continent, is either because of African sailing or exploration parties that have not been documented, or Africans being a part of somebody else's exploration party that either were forced where they escaped.
There are a couple of parties that have been documented.
Or they were given the option to, well, if they wanted to leave, they stayed. But do not for any minute believe that black people spawn like video games, that blacks were spawned in North America. Absolutely not. Blacks originated in Africa the same as Asians originated in East Asia or in the Orient, the same as why you have Russians who originated or in Russia as they did Mongolians. You don't see Mongolians originating in South America. The same reason why you don't see the Indians from the Aleutian Islands or up near Alaska originating in Vietnam. All right. That everyone has a particular area in the world where they are from. Black people did not originate and are not native to North America. If they are native to any place, it is Africa. But if we have blacks who were born here, it's because of exploration brought them here. Just to make that clarification. Right, so with that being said, so we've got past the first question. Did we answer the first question? Yes. Black culture has been susceptible to being misled due to religious belief. All right. So before we do anything else, let me go ahead and show you this. All right. This right here Let me get another picture. All right, this is known as Adam's calendar.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you about that.
Yes, so Adam's calendar is 75,000 years old. And I thought, let me see if I can pull this up because I had some information. I think I closed that out. Just a second. I'll bring up the information for Adam's calendar because Chicago and I were looking at that just the other night.
Yes.
Last show that we did. Adam's calendar located in. There we go. So here we go. So Adam's calendar is a mysterious. Oops, get that out of the way. There we go. Adam's calendar is a mysterious ancient stone structure located in the Mpumalanga province of South Africa. It's a circular arrangement of stones believed by some to be a calendar or astronomical observatory, possibly the oldest of its kind. While its exact age and purpose are debated, some theories suggest it's over 75,000 years old, predating Stonehenge.
Cool.
Now, how old is that? Now, this goes back to the question that we started off when we got kind of sidetracked. I'll take the blame for that. So again, James Usher, Irish cleric, stated through his own observations and studies at the time that he was able to do that the earth was created on September 23rd, which was a Sunday, in the year 4004 BCE. Now, keep that in mind. This man stated that the world as we know it was created 23 October 4004 BCE. Now, I want you to keep that in mind. So we know what, and the Lord created the earth in 7 days on the first day, blah, blah. And then on the seventh day, he rested. We've heard the stories, right? So around 8000 BCE, there were villages, there were hunter-gatherers living around the African Nile because it was more lush back then. Again, that was something that you probably saw when Chicago and I were discussing that before his video conked out.
It had the regular flood, so they could predict it. They could predict it and therefore, plan accordingly.
So you also had a level of science, culinary skill sets, artistry, mathematics. All of that was predating Europe. When going back to 35,000 BCE, the Ishilango bone, no, the Lubombo bone, all these with
the notches on it.
The notches that to let you know that it was a means of counting, of tabulating. All this was documented as being such. So we go back 8,000 BCE. We've got civilization. Let me take back. I don't want to say civilization, but you still have communities. We'll say that. We had communities that were living around the Nile. We had further back communities that were using tools. Even further back, we had medicine that was also prominent, going back 60,000 years or so, where medicine was shown to have been practiced by the ancient Africans.
Yes, so and you all mentioned the Nubians. The Nubians, that's where it started. That's where it started with Nubia. The Egyptians stem from the Nubian culture.
So with all that being said, now here's the thing that may tick some folks off, and I'm okay with that. With all that being said, that we knew that there was life and civilization that were advancements, a part of Africa's history by 8,000 BC and further back. How in the hell does anyone have it in their mouth to fix themselves to say that Adam was the first man? Retort? Response? Hunting wisdom?
No one likes a rude awakening, John. When you're in a dead sleep, and someone says, wake up. That's your response is, They be swinging. That's the response. That's the response people will have. I'm well aware of it, but that's the response people will have.
And this is just me being light-handed right now. Like I said, we're not going to get into any of the contradictions, such as resurrection. All this is fantastical in itself, but
They're
just
great
based,
stories, but they're just stories.
yeah, to you and I, yes, they are just stories, but there are people who take it word for word. And I was hoping that Lorenzo, shout out to Coach Reed, Lorenzo Reed, someone that I bumped into as of recently. He has a show called Deconstructing Christianity that he does live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on YouTube at high noon. Okay. So 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's in Texas, so I believe it might be 11 o'clock Central Standard Time for him. But nonetheless, here we are in the Eastern Standard Time zone. Therefore, 12 o'clock p.m. is when he does his show. So I jump on from every now and then, have a conversation with him and other folks. And we do have these religious extremists, aka the religious ones, who you just cannot have a conversation with because God, Christian is my Lord. God is everything to me. He is with me. I am here. No, there's no one with you except you, yourself, and you. But you have people who claim that, oh, I have a relationship. No, you don't have a relationship. You have some type of, now I'm trying to be nice here. You have a.
Are you?
I'm trying my best.
That's right, Marcus. That's right, Marcus. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Christianity was forced upon us, but
Speaking of Nat Turner.
Oh, that the rebellion. Yeah, we're talking about the rebellion at that point. But yeah, it's you have folks who have a mental association. I'll call it that. They have a mental association, but you do not have a physical relationship. No, there's nothing to be had with the non-existent. As I said before, faith is the belief in the non-existence. Belief is centered around lack of accountability, lack of facts, and lack of historical records. Because when you look at the towns where these supposed miracles were to take place or were to have taken place, they are not recorded. There's nothing there. Zero. But that's only a small bit of that. Yeah, most Christians don't have a relationship with the Most High, but then you have myself, who's an atheist. I do not believe in any Most High. And as a result, I have people who say, well, what guides your life? I told them me, myself, and I, experience and exposure. I think I said on Fatty's panel a couple of weeks ago, because Fatty is doing his damn, oh, John, you need to debate a religious person. Why? I mean, yes, that will come to it, but I need to go ahead and build my platform a little bit more and have more information available, because there's been 2,000 some odd years that Christianity and folks who believe that have had opportunity to set their foot in the ground. I've only been on YouTube since November of 2024. So yeah, I have no problems having these conversations as soon as I have the opportunity to have my words heard. And then if we want to get into it, by all means, we'll do it. But as I was telling Fatty, we're going to do it over here. We're going to have a little bit more, not shooting shots at Fatty's show or whatnot. But when I've seen this done, there's a lack of decorum because of all the over talking, the yelling. People say, this is blood. We're debating blood. No, if you want to debate in blood sport, you can debate outside with a foot in your ass. All right. No, there's a level of decorum that would not be allowed in the actual debate that these guys conduct themselves. And no, that's not how it's going to happen. When we do this over here, it's going to be set in an environment to whereas people can be heard and mics will get cut. Yeah, there's not going to be this over talking. But nonetheless, my belief is that I have none. But by saying that I do not believe does not mean that I'm some type of roving bandit that I go out and kill. Oh, without Jesus in your life, you just go around killing. So I'm 55 years old. I walked away from religion 30 some odd years ago. I have no arrest records. There's nothing of domestic abuse that's on me. I have not been any place where a mugshot has been affixed to a wall. I have none of that. So again, that is all just conjecture. There's nothing. There's just because of the fact you don't live this supposed godly life does not mean that you live a wretched one either.
Absolutely.
Because if you value life, freedom, and those around you, then there's a level of respect that you are going to exude based upon that. So I'm here to tell you.
You know, I'm not religious, but you know, John, I find spiders. I catch them and I put them outside.
I kill spiders, people. I swat
Okay,
flies.
John.
I also eat tasty animals. Peter, please eat tasty animals. Okay.
I value life. I value life. If it had a mother.
She won't eat a rib, y'all. She will not eat a piece of fried chicken.
Nope.
All right, so
no body parts.
Here we go. Question number 2. Do you feel Black culture's protection of the biblical character Jesus disturbing or calming as a result of forced indoctrination? So I ask it again. Do you feel Black culture's protection of the biblical character Jesus disturbing or calming as a result of forced indoctrination? Now, it looks like we already had that question asked here. Or let me put what Marcus said.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing because it shows how the overwhelming majority of us are followers, just blindly following. And the situation. What's that?
Jesus.
Okay. And yeah, that's not ideal for the situation that we're in currently. We need more free thinkers and open-minded individuals, not those who are just blindly following essentially something that was forced on us. I mean, at some point, I understand when you're kids, but at some point in your adulthood, you have to really question everything. And that be one of the main things, to truly question it, But that we know that that's it's challenging. And so many of us are looking for the easiest route. So again, it's disturbing.
Disturbing to say the least. Now, let me add one last thing to that and we'll get on with the get on here. I want to see if I've still got, no. Let me put one more thing here. Josephus. I thought I had it with me where I had a page that looked at James Usher, but let me just go ahead and see if I have to put it in directly. I may have to pull it up here. We'll do that last thing. I'll ask the last question and we'll get on with the last bit. James Usher, chronology. Let me see if this is the one. Oh, and so, well, I'll tell you what, let me do this. Yeah, let's do this instead because we'll be here all day. We want to try and move about here in a brisk manner. I don't want to hold us up any longer than we need to be. Also, let me get rid of this. So again, Adam's calendar, folks, that is 75,000 years old, older than Stonehenge in England. That was said to be around, have been put in place around 3,100 BCE. That's the supposed date of Stonehenge.
I should change the name of that calendar. It shouldn't be named Adam's calendar.
Hey, it's funny enough. That's what it is.
Africa's calendar or something. An African name.
All right. So James Usher claims world was created 23 October 4004 BCE. So I'm putting this up here, folks, that if anyone else wants to go look at this, if you did not know, there it is. And I'm betting you money right now. Anyone who's looking at this, for the two people that we have out here in the clouds, and also for any of you watching this in the replay, if you make it that far, because I really do need to start doing timestamps. But nonetheless, James Usher came up with this concept, and it was utilized when the Bible was put together. So understand, people, when I say again, Adam was not the first man. Not possible if you've got structures like the Adam's calendar, 75,000 years old in Africa, and also you have hunter-gatherer societies that are living around the Nile around 8,000 BCE and further back.
There's just too much proof. There's too much proof. An
There's too
overwhelming amount of proof.
So for anyone to believe that Adam was the first man just off of this little bit of information, you are in denial. But there will always be some type of contention towards this. But I just want to make sure that people have information that you can start with and walk it down. Now, if you don't know how to do proper research, myself and Alicia, you've got our email addresses. If you've been to our pages, you can ask me how to properly do this. Matter of fact, I may need to do a new video showing people how to go about verifying your information, the resources that you come across. Yes, James Usher. Did I say 16th century? Whoops, I meant to say 17th, but nonetheless, 1600s, 17th. Yeah, so 17th century. I apologize. I said 16th because I was thinking of the year 1600. And so when he came about with this revelation. Yes, James Usher, a 17th century Anglican archbishop, claimed that the world was created on October 23rd, 4004 BCE. He arrived at this precise date through his interpretation of biblical genealogies and historical records. This date was widely accepted and even incorporated into printed versions of the King James Bible. Usher's calculation was based on a literal reading. I say again, a literal reading of the Bible, specifically the Old Testament genealogies and other historical texts. He believed that the Bible contained all the necessary. I didn't mean to laugh. Forgive me.
Yes, you did.
Just
get it out.
He believed.
Do you want me to read?
I got this. I'm serious. I got it.
Okay.
I got this. He believed that the Bible contained all the necessary information to determine the age of the earth. At the time, his work, Annals of the Old Testament, deduced from the first origins of the world, published in 1650, detailed his calculations. Usher's date became widely accepted, particularly within Protestant circles. It was used to date the beginning of the world in printed editions of the Bible. While his work was highly regarded during his time, it is now widely considered to be inaccurate by modern scholars who rely on scientific evidence. So the next time you have folks, you start having this conversation, or at least attempting to try and claim that Adam was the first man, you tell them about the hunter-gatherer societies that existed in Africa around the Nile in the years of 8000 BCE and before. Talk to them about science, mathematics, culinary, medicine. All this was dated 35,000 years prior.
Astrology.
Astronomy, astrology, fact, all this was documented. And as I was also saying, what you have here is the foil concept. There's always got to be a foil. In order for someone to look good, somebody has to look bad. And I like to use the comic books because that seems what people seem to recognize, whether it's DC or Marvel, because I know you've got your fans of either of those two, right? Joker had Batman. Lex Luthor had Superman. The Cowboys had the Indians, and Rome, aka Christianity, had Egypt. That was their foil. Matter of fact, let me put up this one last thing. We'll ask the last question. We'll get into home stretch. Oh, I surely hope I kept that. There we go. Yes. Let me know if you can see that, ma'am.
Yes.
Typed in, Egypt is seen as a foil to Christianity. Egypt's portrayal in the Bible can indeed be understood as a foil to Christianity in several ways, particularly when examining the themes and events surrounding the Exodus and the subsequent development of Israel's faith. Here's a breakdown of how Egypt functions as a foil. Symbol of bondage and oppression. Sound familiar? And again, people, I'm saying this is not Vacation Bible School. This is not a Sunday sermon. This is not Wednesday Bible study. This is just facts that I'm presenting. All right. I'm not going back and forth to anyone about facts here. And even though we see certain information that is made available to us, filtering is still applied to your searches, folks. I want you to understand that there is still more information out here that you are not going to be able to get to unless you properly ask your question that will allow you to get to certain information, pieces of information that is withheld due to filtering of 1 or 2 words. You change 1 or 2 words inside of a search, you will find more information. Just something to keep about, and maybe I'll go ahead and demonstrate in future videos. Symbol of bondage and oppression. The most prominent example is the enslavement of the Israelites in Egypt, which is a central theme in the book of Exodus. Egypt represents spiritual and physical bondage from which God delivers his people, serving as a contrast to the freedom and liberation offered through faith in God. Now, remember, we talked about faith. Faith is the belief in the non-existent, but in order to be cherished and revered, you have to operate off of faith. Critical thinking is out the window. All right, you got to believe in order for progress to be made. Worldly power versus divine sovereignty. Egypt, as a powerful and prosperous nation in antiquity, is depicted as relying on its own strength and wisdom. The plagues sent upon Egypt demonstrate God's power and sovereignty over all nations and deities, contrasting with the false wisdom and idolatry prevalent in Egypt. Again, the foil talk here. Idolatry versus monotheism. Ancient Egypt was characterized by polytheism and idolatry, whereas various gods and goddesses were worshipped. You have to remember now. You have in Rome. Now, this is what kills me when they talk about the polytheism and idolatry in Egypt. But yet remember, sorry. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead. Let's do it. We're here. We're here. So
Hera, Zeus, all the different gods, Greek and Roman.
In parallel, the Romans had the Roman gods, again, like Alicia was saying, Zeus in Greek history or Greek mythology. But if you look at Roman mythology, you had the same god, but his name was Jupiter. Whereas the Romans looked at the planets as being the gods. The Greeks had different names for the same god in parallel.
Okay. I get them mixed up. So the Romans used the planets. Okay.
Yeah, the Romans used the planets. So you
Mars, Venus.
So if I said Venus in as far as the Roman mythology,
Aphrodite,
recognize that. But if I say Aphrodite, now you know what I'm talking about. If I say Hermes in Greek,
Mercury,
there you go, Mercury's planet. If I say Pluto for Mercury, for Hades in Greek,
I'm good.
There you go, the same exact guy. So tell me something. Why would you push off to the side or act like you were not doing the same thing in Europe, but then have the audacity to point fingers at the Egyptians?
Gosh, and you would think the Romans and the Greek, they have so many gods and deities. They may have more than the Egyptians. There are so many, countless.
And again, because our people, as a majority, do not read and study these particular aspects, the minute you mention something like this, there's a fight. Oh, no, Jesus is Lord. Jesus is my Lord. He is my strength. He never existed. That's the crazy thing. Jesus never existed. You folks are worshiping in the image of a white pharaoh named Serapis, who is fictionalized. Had to get it out. 4, seeking refuge in worldly systems versus relying on God. While Egypt sometimes serves as a place of refuge for the Israelites during times of famine, it also represented a temptation to trust in worldly power and systems instead of God's providence. The prophets warned against seeking help from Egypt, urging Israel to rely solely on the Lord. So here we go. You see that foil? No, nothing about Egypt. Do not pay attention. They are the worst. Don't trust them. Don't believe in them. But remember now, all this started. This is where the indoctrination starts to get its roots, because at this time, remember, we talked about Adam's calendar. Now, when Rome first invaded with we'll say Europe, we'll say Alexander the Great. Now, people want to say Alexander the Greek. No, his title was the Great. So even though we may not like what he did, come on, folks, let's be proper with history. All right. Facts do not choose sides. The man's name was Alexander the Great. Even though we don't feel he was, that was still his name. So Alexander the Great invaded around 332 BCE. But listen to the years, 332 BCE. Was it not already made known that there were hunter-gatherers living around the African Nile in 8000 BCE. In 4004 BCE is the date that James Ussher declared the earth being created. The year is now 332 BCE. So Genesis, Exodus, all of that did not exist supposedly until after the world was created in 4004 BCE per James Ussher. But Africans from 8000 BCE and further back were already tested in mathematics, science, culinary, medicine. So just keep that in mind.
Where those huge structures come from, the pyramids.
75,000 BCE for Adam's calendar. The structures, the pyramids, are older than the concept, or actually older than the Bible itself. But yet still, Adam is supposedly the first man. I'll leave it right there. I've said enough. I'm probably going to have an earful for my aunts in the morning if they happen to see this. Earthly pleasure versus eternal rewards. The Bible, in comparing the experiences of the Israelites in Egypt with their journey to the promised land, implies a choice between earthly pleasures and a life of freedom and faith. Moses chose to suffer with God's people over the riches of Egypt, serves as an example of prioritizing eternal rewards over temporary gratification. Notice you have to have a sell to that. You have to tell folks, oh, you will burn unless you give your life over to the Lord. You will burn and die in hell. Now, fact, I'm going to go ahead and release something now. Damn it, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. The Panari Indians, Panare. Now, do you remember me making mention of this to you before?
No.
So the Panari Indians were a tribe in South America. This is around the mid 70s or so. So you had what do they call the guys who like to go out into the boonies? Not the witnesses, the guys who go out and try and do conversion of people who live out in the most back-asses place.
Missionaries?
Thank you. Missionaries. So you had some missionaries who came across the Panari Indians, and they tried to say, oh, do you realize that you are responsible for the death of Jesus because of the fact of your sin, and he died because of your sin? The Panari Indians did not have a word for sin. And they didn't, I forgot if they didn't have a word for resurrection, but these are words that like, huh, what are you talking about? No, you don't know who do we supposed to kill? So the first thing about religion is that in order to get you saved, we have to get you lost. And the typical techniques of fear or control, it wasn't working because they literally, the Panari Indians did not have words that translated to sin. For example, we'll just stay with that. So what they did was they actually went out, the Roman Catholic Church created a Bible specifically. No, I got to do it now. No, I'm telling too much here.
Well, that's how it typically starts. They send in the missionaries, then come the colonizers. The missionaries do all the work. They lay the foundation for conquering.
Here we go.
And you said that these Indians, these natives were indigenous people. They were in South America?
Yep, in South America. A Bible. Panare. Panari. Panari Indians, Roman Church. I'm trying to find the right question to ask it, because you'll find it in here where it is filtered heavily, where they're trying to hide this information.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try one more time. Roman, create the Bible to convert. Nope, that's not it either. So here, let me do this. I want you to see how AI works. Can you see that?
Yes.
So let me clear this. So I want you to look at the differences that you see. So I'm going to ask the questions again. There appears to be some confusion. So I've got it saved somewhere where it actually states what I'm talking about. But you see, when you have filtering applied, it makes it difficult for the actual answer to come out here because of the filtering that's being put in place. There appears to be some confusion. No, there's no confusion. This is actually documented. But because of the fact we have filtering that's going on, it is hard to get the answer you're looking for. So I'm going to ask this question again and watch a different answer come back. Panari Indians in the Modified Bible. Christian missionaries attempted to convert the Panari, a Venezuelan tribe, did create a version of the Bible translated into the Panari language in the 1970s. Accounts suggest this translated version was edited to attribute the responsibility of Jesus' death to the Panari people in an attempt to induce guilt and convert them to Christianity. This was done despite the Panari traditionally having no words for sin, guilt, punishment, or redemption in their language, and exhibiting a highly egalitarian and non-punitive social structure. This practice of altering religious texts for conversion purposes has been widely criticized. So that'll work good enough. But again, was I lying?
Wow. Up until 1970, and they still trying this foolishness.
Yep, still trying their best here. But I don't want anyone to ever say that they did not get the correct answer from us. That could not be said. All right, so let's go on with the last question, because again, this so much information starts coming out that you just got to get it out of your system. And yeah, I do think there might have to be some earmarking here. Now we might have to timestamp this. So last but not least, and this is going to be an easy answer. Do you regard the Bible as being world history or religious conjecture?
No. No.
Oh, that's not an answer. That was not a yes or no.
Do I regard it?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I did one of yours that we did on Saturday night. Excuse me. Yes. That is a yes or no. Brain fart, people. But yes. So I guess
it happens to the best of us.
Let me explain that better. So do you think the Bible is world history, or do you think it's religious conjecture? Let me ask it that way, because that's how I was intending. You said no, but you meant to say no, that it is not world history. But you're saying that you believe the Bible is religious conjecture.
Yes, religious conjecture. Yes.
Okay, there. So we're both getting the same place, because it's not like we're wrong, but it's the way that I asked it and the way that you're answering based on how you heard it. So just for clarification, folks, we both see the Bible as being religious conjecture. How so? We just put the proof in front of you.
Again, they're great stories. They're great stories with great morals, wonderful lessons, but they're just stories.
Right. Just because something has a level of morality about it does not mean there's an element of truth when you expand it to see if it did happen.
Absolutely. Just like the Mother Goose fairy tales.
There's always
beautiful.
There's a good lesson to be learned, but the way that it's told will determine on whether it's fact or fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hello, someone I don't think I've ever seen before. Hello, Kinder.
Hello, Kinder.
But yes, I see. Damn. By all means, Kinder, welcome to the show. I don't think that I've ever seen you here before, but I appreciate you stopping by. So please, if you're still watching, man, go ahead and expand on what you're saying damn to and what specific element. Expand on that if you could, man. We'll converse about that for a second. Hey, y'all, my friends went to bed.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Welcome through. So the key thing here is that there are going to be people, hopefully, Kinder, make sure you tell this, share this with folks. Hopefully we can get this timestamp so it won't be a long lesson to sit through. But I promise you, if you sit down and just watch from the beginning, there are going to be no issues with you staying up to date and being wide awoke to what we're talking about here. But we're ending this particular section here stating that for the most part, there have been in the Black community, there's been a lack of vigilance when it comes to civil rights. And now we're finishing off the second where we're talking about the lack of vigilance in religion. So as can clearly be seen, there have been lies that have been told. There's been indoctrination that has been in place. The Bible is the same book it was when slaves were being brought over during the slave trade, and people still being brought into the same level of indoctrination. Key thing, again, in order to get you saved, we've got to get you lost. And based upon this last piece, is talking about the Panari Indians, because there was no such thing as sin, guilt, that type of information that or words that were in their language. The Catholic Church created a Bible specifically to tell them that you killed Jesus, but they couldn't say crucifixion. They couldn't use that. So instead, they said that the Panari nailed Jesus to wood, and because they killed him, they would now burn in the big fire, because they also did not have hell. That was a part of their language. So therefore,
this is hilarious.
Yeah, you will burn in the big fire, and you had the Panaris going, "No, we don't want to burn in big fire." And they were able,
on these people. Shame.
They were able to convert a fair amount of Panari after having that specialized Bible that was created just to get them to convert.
I wish I could travel back to that time just to see those Panari who were looking at their family and friends and like, what are y'all doing? Y'all falling for this? I wish I could. Oh my gosh.
And I cannot believe we're at the 2-hour mark, so we're probably going to try and curve this down in the next. Yeah, I told.
Oh,
okay.
Did you believe?
Yeah, we've been. So it's not saying that's been dragging, but even though it's just been us for the most part, I can't wait to see what happens when people see this in the replay. I'm going to try and take elements and pieces out of this and make shorts so that people can see this.
Cool.
Yep, we were all, and yes, everything was all pagans. People don't seem to realize that when they talk about God's love, no, God in the Bible was responsible for genocide.
Oh my goodness, the Crusades were awful.
Even before that, and I think what I'll do, I'm going to make a short as maybe a follow-up to this, because like I said, we're just burning so much time because the information is just falling out at this point. But you have particular aspects of the Bible that talk literally about God telling people to kill man, woman, child, leave no living thing. And this is in print. I was just reading this, funny enough, just earlier today, but I'll share that down the road. Asking people to be non-racist will get you in trouble with people because you expect non-racism. It's almost like an oxymoron, isn't it? Ooh, so, but yeah, so we'll go ahead and wrap that section up. So we're 2 or 3 down here. So folks, again, yes, the Roman Catholic Church went out and created a Bible in order to get someone to convert because their normal methods did not work.
Shameful.
Yep. See, no one does that. Nobody does that. Facts. So we're now going into what I call the third part here of the loss of business to Black culture. Now, we all have been hearing the lies since July of last year that Kamala Harris is not a Black person. Now, we've all heard that, right? I know you've heard it. If not, you've seen it online. You've heard it from me and probably conversations. So you have that. So just so people are familiar with who is the main person telling these lies, you have none other than Candace Owens. So I just want to make this clear.
Has anyone started rumors saying that Candace wasn't Black?
Not yet.
Oh.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Yep, speak on it. So what you have here with Candace Owens is that she is primarily the main person who started pushing the lie once Donald Trump came out and said, well, is she black? You know, first she was Indian, but I don't know. Now she's saying she's black. What is she? But I just want to make sure that people realize that Candace Owens is the primary issue that we see here, where you try and have a conversation with black folks like, oh no, Candace Owens has already debunked that. Also Judge Joe Brown, her father is not black. Yes, that is the lie being told. Her father is Afro-Caribbean. So because of her being Afro-Caribbean, what does Afro mean? It means associated with Africa, meaning black. It's like, people, are you kidding? So this is one of the things that I've already debunked previously, but this is the lie that Candace Owens started. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris published photos of herself with a woman she claimed was her paternal grandmother, who died 4 years before Harris was born. And okay, it was false. That was a flat out lie for the most part. Now, her grandmother died in 1995 when Harris was 31. An unrelated woman at the center of the claim died in 1960. So long story short, what you had was a woman named Beryl Howe who died, not Beryl Finnegan. Beryl Finnegan, it was Kamala's grandmother. Now, the white person that everyone is confused about in Kamala's heritage was, let's put it this way. It was, oh, I'm having a brain fart. I'm sorry. Her great-great-grandfather, Patrick Finnegan, came from Ireland. Now, I've got a video of that.
That's an Irish name.
Yeah, Patrick Finnegan. He came from Ireland. He went to Jamaica. And while in Jamaica, he married a black woman and had Patrick A. Finnegan, who was biracial, who married a black woman. I think her last, Miss Christie, I can't think of what her name was all of a sudden, but he married a black woman who, between the two of them, they gave birth to Kamala's grandmother, who in turn married her father, Joseph Oscar, so I forget his last name, who was her grandfather, married to her grandmother, who they gave birth to her father, Donald Harris, who was a black man. So therefore, if you look at this, the only person who was white in her family from her grandmother's side was her great-great-grandfather. But for whatever reason, people were trying to say that her father was actually was a white man. But here, let's do this also. Donald Harris. And picture. I want to show you Kamala's father. Oh, that picture did not come out good. This is her dad. There's one picture of him. Now, here's another picture of him when she was younger. Let me do this. Let me get images up here so I can get a better picture here. Yes, here we go. Again, this is her father. Does that look like a white man to you? Does that look like
that's the brother?
No, yeah, of course. But still, you have people trying to say, "Oh no, her father was a white man." No, he was not. There's something that Kinder has put up here. I can talk to y'all on the internet. I'm here, but I might 1.5 it ain't worth 3 return to consequences of knowing. But it might be 1 out of 5. It ain't worth the return to consequence of knowing black people. If you're the good 4/5 blacks, you know you're probably bad, which results in the worst kinds of physical attacks. You got to deal with the separation. And it says, we are all about artificial birthing. You choose to white woman DNA mixed with yours in a birthing sac. Or does it require going with a white woman to erase that quality of you to move you close to being accepted by whites and Asians? So what you have now is you're looking at the thought process of if people wanted to do away with being black, or how do we further ingrain ourselves into society? How do you do that to ensure that there's a level of your color? This is just me interpreting from the question he's asking how I perceive that. if you want to do away or get closer to that. Now, this is just what I'm saying. I'm sure he has his own words that are put to that. But if you've ever seen what happens when, let's say, a biracial child, his mother is black or his father is black and his mother is white, you get a light-skinned a black person, right? But when you have that same biracial child marry someone who's white, essentially what you have here now is that you have someone, even though there is DNA that is black in his culture, the external, the outside of him will now still look white, although their parents is black. I have seen this. I've seen a woman who was white. I mean, a woman who was interracial. She was biracial. Her husband was English. They were both English. She was English black. He was English white. And her daughters looked like average Caucasian people that you would see walking down the street, even though their mother was biracial. But that just shows you how genealogy works. But that still states that somewhere down the road, that if her daughter were to have children, she would most likely come out Kamala's complexion.
You never know when I'll pop up. Are you familiar with the story? What's the film about it? It was called Skin. The film is called Skin, about the South African family, white couple who had a couple of mixed looking kids. You remember that one?
Yeah,
that was good, wasn't it?
And she was as dark as Kamala, but her mom and dad were both white.
You
and not
test?
once did it happen, but twice.
Yes, that's right. They had two babies. Yep. They had the first son, and then they had her, and then the second son. Remember all the tests they made her go through? They had the pencil test and like the butt test. That girl went through. She went through it. Oh my gosh.
And so
she had a rough life.
So all that goes to show here is that even in that case, there was someone that was definitely had been black in somebody's family in South Africa. Somebody was black. I don't know if they ever got to if it was on the mother's side or the father's side, but it showed in the skin color of her. It showed more or less.
Remember they initially thought the wife, had been unfaithful. Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
So let's reel it back in before we get off on another tangent, because we can go there.
Was good.
But also, as I'm saying here, with Candace Owens, there was this was not the only statement that she had made that was untrue, but it was proven to be, as I said, if we get down to the bottom, when you look at the birth records or the birth certificates, and there's a picture that I have here that I was going to show here where there's exact shot came from. It was recognized that her grandmother was the woman that we saw here. So Miss Iris, mother of 8 children, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough, charming woman who ran the farm at Thatch Walk near Annantown, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. And we're talking about back in Jamaica. But again, Miss Barrow and loving father, Miss Oscar, or Mass Oscar, her grandfather. Here's the date of birth, or actually the death certificate of the woman that Candace Owens was claiming was her grandmother, but was not. This is the woman who died in 1960. Yeah, let me answer this one question here. So would your children not be more attracted to other blacks if they were lighter? So there was a time, Kinder. So I'm going to take it that you're not being disingenuous, but you're asking the question because it is a Bible question. So you had a time, I want to say in the late 80s. Now, again, I was 19. So you had this thing where you had light-skinned blacks who had issues with dark-skinned blacks. And there was a time in the black community that lighter skin was perceived to be more beautiful. Now, I could go show you some pictures of some light-skinned men and women that was like, woo.
Look, I guess I blocked it out. But you were mentioning racism earlier and different experiences, and I was saying I haven't had that many within my family. The colorism, horrible, because you see my complexion, and most of the people in my family are darker skinned. I had an aunt, she was awful to me. She was awful. But not just to me. She had 2 of her children were like my complexion or lighter. She was mean to them too. She has some issues, boy. I remember being called all kinds of nasty, racist names as a little kid. Let me lock that back up. That's for the therapist. Ooh, yeah. So
when artificial birthing used to, I don't care where the sperm came from. I just want to raise an army of blonde-haired Germans. Hey, if you can find the
Aryan nation.
Yep, go ahead, do what you need to do.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely remember that time period when lighter blacks were preferred.
So essentially what I was going to say is that you had a movie by Spike Lee that was called School Days.
Okay. I don't think I saw
with that. Yeah, School Day came out in 1989. So with that, we're going to go ahead and leave a Kinder off to the side because you can see also I turned it on to where you can see commentary. So so feel free here. So I think we're getting to the trolling stage, but all right, I'm not going to stop you here because I allow people to come in and say what they need to say. Doesn't mean they will always respond to it. So the big thing here is that in 1989, School Days came out and you had a song, Good or Bad Hair, and you had the jigaboos and you had the wannabes. The jigaboos were the people my complexion and the wannabes were the folks who were your complexion. And it was back and forth, back and forth. This was the time when they were talking about divesting from South Africa. So this is the period of time where they were talking about we need to stop investing in countries that are pillaging and taking away from Africa. So this is, remember I talked about 1989 when we had conscious rap. This was within that time period also where Spike Lee had made that movie. Lead person in that was Lawrence Fishburne. But nonetheless, when we talk about the colorism of the aspect of it, yes, you did have that just to answer the aspect of Kendra's question. So the issue here is that out of what's being stated or found when regarding Kamala Harris, her mother, although Indian, and her father being black, by that case made her a black man, makes her a black woman. Now, I'd asked this question to Hemp through a super chat. I think I told you about it. I said, Hemp, they were talking about how blacks were against or attacking blacks on what they believe and for the most part, just going against each other in culture. You couldn't agree on certain aspects.
Okay.
So I said,
okay. I recall. Mm-hmm.
So based on that, my concept or of the question that I formed was this. So if Kamala Harris is not considered to be black, again, if she is not considered to be black, even though her dad was black, then that would mean that Malcolm X is not black because his mom, I'm sorry, let me phrase it back. If Kamala's great-grandfather was a white man, and her dad, even though he was black,
one drop
her as being black. It disqualifies her as being black. Then that would mean that Malcolm X could not be black because by direct birth from his mother, who was biracial, and her father was white, or his grandfather was white, that would mean that he wasn't black. But Ham told Love, well, his daddy was black, which makes him black. And I remember that because that's when Love said that's all that matters. So if that is the case, you recall looking at Donald Harris's picture, right? That was a black man. Now, by that logic, black people, that would make Kamala black, would it not?
Mm-hmm.
Just in that in and of itself. So here, let me go ahead. Let me show you how foolish we've gotten over here. In 20 years, we can double the population of 40 million not working on disability. The gay leftists are women with no kids.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love when we get to it. No, we're going live. We're going to live to see this. In 2011, Brit started premature birthing sacks with umbilical cords. 10 years, FDA approved. Double-blind studies is really here. We're going to see it now. I am not going to sign on to that just yet, Kendra, but I'll take a look here. but I'll entertain this for the most part, because I'm not going to say that everyone is entitled to not have their say. But the thing is that if it's not substantiated, it becomes conjecture and foolishness. But by all means, have your thought patterns, keep it to where you feel that it can be justified, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is going to go with that. But you still have the right to let it be known, because that is a right of your freedom of speech. So anywho, getting back to that. So what we're going to look at now here is going from this first claim to where in the end, it was found, oh, this is Kamala's mother, and that's her grandfather. This is her dad's father. So I believe at the time, Mr. Joseph and Kamala's great-grandmother, Kamala's grandmother, weren't married at the time. But still, her father, this is her father, Donald's father, this is his father. So the bottom line, the Patrick Finnegan who fathered Beryl Finnegan is generally accepted to be Patrick Alphonsus Finnegan, one of several mixed-race children of Patrick Finnegan, the immigrant. And when I say the immigrant, this is the man who came from Ireland. Okay. So that is who it is. The first and foremost part of it here is that her grandfather was the white man in her genealogy.
Does Kamala, does she have siblings?
Yes, she has a little sister. Now, moving on past that, here's another fact I want to put up here. Now, this came out August 1st of 24, right when everything started getting silly here. But what people don't seem to realize, Kamala Harris is long identified as Black, contrary to Trump. So there is a section in here where she spoke explicitly about how she's always identified as being Black. But let's take a look at where it all started. At the National Association of Black Journalists convention in Chicago on July 31st, Trump said she was always of Indian heritage and she was only promoting the Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black. And now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know. Is she Indian or is she Black? He
She's
continued.
Both.
But you know what?
Oh,
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person. Contrary to Trump's statements, Harris has long publicly identified as both Black and South Asian American. Her White House biographer, we already know that. Well, let me just read this anyway. Kamala Harris is born to an Indian mother and a Black Jamaican father, both immigrants to the United States. The U.S. Census includes people of Jamaican heritage among racial groups considered to be Black. Now you see that information right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me go ahead. Get the foolishness out of here. So basically, what we're looking at here is that we're literally stating that we have a woman whose father is Black. All right. It says right here, the U.S. consensus includes people of Jamaican heritage among racial groups considered to be Black. So when you hear the FBA camp talk about, oh, well, no, Kamala Harris is not Black. Besides, Candace Owens already proved that she wasn't Black. No, this is wrong. All right. This is ignorance, people. I want you to understand this. This is pure ignorance. So we understand most of that part, that for the most part, hey, what's up, my dude? Hey, come on back. Hey, we'll do the same thing. So when he comes back again, hey, we can do this all day.
Oh boy. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Right? So here, let me put this back. So anyhow, the whole aspect that we have here is recognizing that what we consider to be black, or what people don't want to call black, we have, once again, here's the proof that she's always been black. She stated that she's black. But Donald Trump's rhetoric is what allowed the opening to start, where Candace slipped in and said, you know what? She isn't a black person. Matter of fact, it's fake. It's a lie. But as you saw in Snopes, stated that she is actually black. And in this article by Reuters, it's stating that she is black, but also based on her Jamaican heritage. Her White House biography says she is the first woman, the first Black American, and the first South Asian American to be elected vice president. In 2016 feature for the New York Times Magazine, Harris talked about her mother's choice of community for her and her younger sister Maya after her parents divorced, and referred to herself as a black person. She had 2 black babies, and she raised them to be black women. All right, going back as far as 2016, and even going back to 2012. Here, let me give you where this article starts off as, just in case you want to look it up here, because I think we're going to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes or so. But it states here, whoops, Kamala Harris once again has long identified as black, contrary to Trump claim. August 1st, 2024, and also Reuters. So anyone wanting to do a look for themselves, here it is. If I need to, I'll drop it into another video where I'll do an updated short, or I'll go find the short that I originally did to show people where the information can be found. All right, so getting back to why we had that long ass tangent there, it's because of the lies being told by Candace Owens. Now take a look here. Candace is in trouble right now because of calling President Macron's wife a biological man. Yep.
And
now,
why did she
there
do
was
this?
a change. No one knows why she
It's
does
her
this.
reasoning? No.
Well, for whatever reason, she is in that vein to where she can make a statement to the low and common denominator of blacks who will not do their research, but they will take it at face value because, oh, she talks good. Oh, she sounds like she's smart. She sounds like she knows what she's saying. And because of that, and also the fact that she talks about being Christian, we just covered the part about how the Bible and the lack of vigilance in the black community, how the Bible has been able to usurp black, what was it called? Black intelligence. I can't think of a better word, black intelligence towards Christianity. She has been able to usurp that and use that and build a platform of folks who, even if you tell them it's a lie, no, I refuse to believe it, I'm lying to you. Again, we just showed that the Roman Catholic Church created an entire Bible just to get someone to believe in Jesus, to make them guilty so they would convert.
It's craziness.
So this was just an update that came by to whereas they were changing the format in which they were submitting pretty much the defamation lawsuit, and somebody on X said, hey, they're withdrawing the lawsuit. On August 3rd, a widely shared X post suggested the lawsuit had since been withdrawn, writing, wait, what? Mr. Emmanuel Macron and Mr. Notice, not Mrs. Mr. Bridget Macron have dropped the lawsuit against Candace Owens already. When she didn't back down, guess he is a man after all. No, they were just resubmitting it. They withdrew it just to resubmit it. They wanted to submit it directly, make sure that it was attributed to the defamation suit against Candace Owens. But just in case you didn't know that, again, Candace Owens nonsense, where she called Mr. Macron's wife a man. Oh, yes. Now, why do I bring this up to mention? I want to introduce you to Carmen JC. Now, Carmen JC has made statements that, oh, her inspirations, one of them is, guess who?
Candace Owens.
Yep. Candace
Wild
Owens.
guess.
Yes, Candace Owens, she says, is an inspiration to her. So that being said, let me see if I can find before I roll this. I want you to see something here. No, that is, where is it? There is, oh, here we go. All right, so here is another picture before I play this of the young lady we're talking about. Now, again, we're talking about loss of vigilance in the Black culture in social media, right? Is that correct? That's what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take a look. Let me know.
What is so funny?
What is that?
Oh, okay. That's the MAGA hat.
There you go. Make America great again. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting folks trying, but nonetheless, yes. So this is her. This is Miss Carmen JC and her.
This is the same lady.
Yep, she just had her hair dyed here, but
okay.
So this is an issue with Barack Obama in 1995 when he had gotten somebody, at least this part of it, when he got someone kicked off of a ballot. Now, I've said many times before, Obama was not Black Superman. He is a politician like everybody else. So don't think that there aren't any tactics that may have been used by him in the beginning. But still, he is a politician like everyone else. But before I say anything else, just have a listen. Fair use.
He played the game and he played it well. In 1995, State Senator Alice Palmer, a respected Black woman in Chicago politics, decided to run for Congress. She gave Obama her blessing to run for her Illinois State Senate seat. But when her congressional campaign failed miserably, she came back to reclaim her seat. Obviously, Obama was like, no, and she had to run against him. But he didn't just run against her. He challenged her nominating petitions. He questioned the validity of her signatures, and he got her kicked off the ballot. In fact, every single one of the opponents was challenged and eliminated. Obama ran unopposed and won by default. That was the first red flag, and the machine took notice. He wasn't just...
And the machine took notice. All right, but as I said before, I want you to keep in mind that he's saying that, oh, that was underhanded, what Obama did. But one of the things that I talk about greatly is that you remember, well, you probably don't because you don't follow, but July of last year, when Donald Trump was being raked over the coals for his 34 counts that he had been indicted on, to include theft of government classified information and so forth, you knew Donald Trump was done. There was no way that he was going to get out of that. But what ended up happening? You had Judge Eileen Cannon, who held the door open long enough, waiting for somebody to come up with something, who got assistance from Clarence Thomas or from SCOTUS, from the Supreme Court, who said, oh, well, Jack Smith was illegally appointed. And then it almost seemed within 24 hours or sooner, she said, oh, we're dismissing this case against Donald Trump because the special counsel was illegally appointed. Now, I want you to remember here, you heard young Carmen here talking about, oh, look what Obama did. It was underhanded. You know, the machine was in play. Now you hear her calling him out. And I'm going to simply say, I'm not defending what he did because, yes, he's a politician. You know, politicians are going to do this, whether Black or white. So why do you want to try and always just Black conservatives trying to focus and push these narratives, right? So I wanted folks to take a look at something here. Now, let me just roll this back up for a second. So we had an investigation of Joe Biden at the same time that there was an investigation of Trump when they're looking at them for classified misdeeds or what's not. And the prosecutor or the special counsel assigned to Joe Biden was allowed to finish and publish his report. Whereas we know that Jack Smith was stopped. He was tripped up all the way through his prosecution of Trump.
Okay, I recall.
Stop, right? He was forced to stop. And then again, had it not been for that moment, Trump was not going to get away from this. They had him tattered to the wall. But I want folks to realize here that the same person that that made Jack Smith the special counsel for Donald Trump was the same damn attorney general who made Robert Hur the special counsel for Joe Biden. Guess who that was? Merrick Garland. And it shows you right here, Jack Smith. All right, he was appointed the 18th, November 18th, 2022. Let me make sure I got the column right. Yeah, the start and end date. So the start date, where are we? There we go. Start date, November 18th, 2022. The end date, where they just said, you know what, piss on it, January 10th, 2025. Trump had achieved what he wanted to do, which was stall everything out long enough, whereas if he won the election, he could make it go away, and he did. But take note, Merrick Garland appointed Robert Hur. He also appointed Jack Smith. So how is it that Robert Hur, appointed by Merrick Garland, was allowed to finish, and he was not considered to be illegally appointed, but Jack Smith was? And I made this point almost 7 or 8 months ago. Ooh, but that is the inconsistency that I just wanted to point out here, what Miss Young Carmen was trying to say. Oh, look at what was done by Obama. No, I think we've seen worse here. All right, so home stretch, here we are, because I see your eyes getting ready to get tight here. So let's go ahead and round this one out. So for the folks who have not seen this video here, this is something that I put together talking about the 6 lies Black conservatives tell. And guess who is the guest of honor for this? Candace Owens. So fair use, fair use. This will be the last thing that we show, folks. So I'm going to let this run. This is about 5 minutes or so. I had to chop it down. But nonetheless, if you have not seen this, take a look. Here are 6 lies that Black conservatives routinely tell other Blacks because we do not fact check. Number 1, 79% of Planned Parenthood abortion clinics are in Black neighborhoods. This lie is demonstrably false. PolitiFact and the Guttmacher Institute both disprove this claim. Information will be provided. Number 2, Planned Parenthood clinics were put in Black neighborhoods to control the Black population. Let's not be surprised. This is false. On August 14, 2015, NPR News did a fact check of the statement by Ben. Alicia, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
and found it to be false. Number 3, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a supporter of the Nazi Party. Don't be surprised if I tell you that this also is false. Once again, in the August 14, 2015 article written by NPR doing fact checks of Planned Parenthood, it showed that Margaret Sanger not only was not a supporter of the Nazi Party, but she was fully invested in the reproductive health of Blacks, as shown by her inclusion in the 1939 Negro Project. Number 4. Now here is the biggest lie out of all of this. The federal government kicked Black men out of the house to separate Black families. Come on, Black people. False. The man in the house rule was not a federal statute. However, to have it explained properly, it was a term used to describe policies adopted by some states that denied welfare benefits to families, primarily Black families, if a male resided in the household, regardless of whether he was in the role of the father or provider support. Now, funny enough, people don't know that the Social Security Act passed in 1935 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt was primarily for whites only. It wasn't until later that Blacks were allowed to be included under the program to allow poor families to have the benefit of assistance from the state. Furthermore, the man in the house rule was formally struck down by the Supreme Court in 1968. Now, even having done that, you still had welfare agencies who, based upon the decentralization of the Social Security Act, still operated in utilizing this particular unofficial statute, more so against single Black families, being a mother with children without a father in the house, as opposed to white families, being a single white mother without a father in the house. Number 5, and here's another big one. The Republican and Democratic parties did not switch ideologies in the 1960s. This one right here is a sizable red flag false. The lie that the Republican and Democratic Party did not switch ideologies forms the foundation for which a lot of commentary from the Republican Party exists. In a nutshell, the changing of ideology between the Republican and Democratic parties started with the botched response of the 1927 Great Flood by Herbert Hoover, at the time who was the Secretary of Commerce before he was president in 1929. By losing the support of blacks in this particular incident, blacks first began moving towards the Democratic Party after the election of Herbert Hoover. Information will be provided in the link. In 1964, the Republican candidate for president, Barry Goldwater, voted against civil rights, therefore prompting Martin Luther King to have blacks vote for Lyndon Johnson. Number 6. The Southern strategy was a myth. Oh my gosh, y'all. False. I've explained this aspect more than a few times, but we'll go ahead and do this one more again as per Britannica. The Southern strategy was, in the political history of the United States, a campaign strategy of the Republican Party, actively pursued from the 1960s, that initially sought to increase and preserve support from white voters in the South by subtly endorsing racial segregation, racial discrimination, and the disenfranchisement of black voters. The strategy has also involved directly promoting conservative views on immigration, taxes, social welfare programs, law enforcement, and states' rights. So it is mind-numbing to hear Candace Owens and a few others make the statement that the Southern strategy was a myth. FYI, the Southern strategy was also utilized in getting Ronald Reagan into the White House in 1980. Look for the Lee Atwater response on the Southern strategy. So I'm going to leave you all with this fun fact. Out of the 6 lies that black conservatives tell other blacks, Candace Owens told 90% of these. Do with that information as you will. Find somebody who knows somebody to tell somebody about what we got going on over here. If you like it, let me know. Share it if you do. And subscribe. This is what you're looking for. Make sure you stay strong with your fact checking, folks. If you need any assistance, you know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
She is what's known as a lying ass liar.
Okay.
Marcus, welcome back.
Hi, Marcus.
You missed it. We had I was going to show some what he was talking about, Kinder. There's a guy out here who is saying that the reality and the life we live in, or more so, we're in the Matrix, and the religion of Christianity is actually Matrix driven. And the life that we live, we have to go to hell, and the Hindu belief, we have to live that life, die 7 times before we get to what we want, because it's all a simulation. Oh yeah. If you're
is that what Kinder was explaining?
He was kind of in that same ballpark. The only reason why I recognize that nonsense is because I had come across somebody who was preaching something similar, talking about simulations. But his idea was the fact that everything, even Christianity, back during the Age of Enlightenment, he said there's no way that paintings like that could have been done. I'm like, brother, are you serious? But this was his dialect. And you know what I'm saying? There ain't no way that you could have a picture. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Knuckle? You couldn't have had nothing like this, because it had to be a part of the simulation. That's a part of the Matrix. You know what I'm saying? So this is a simulation. This did not happen. This was technology that was responsible for this picture. I'm like, Negro, please.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is literally what the guy sounded like as he was speaking, trying to say that even though we know that that Christianity, that it's a lie, what's being told and how it's been presented, but he was trying to say that it was all a computer simulation. He was saying that Christianity, everything, it was computer simulation. Oh, I had to stop listening, because I thought this is the segment that I want to make sure we talk about the loss of vigilance.
Oh, that's right. Because in the Matrix, they had the babies in the birthing pods. Okay.
Yeah. So there there was a picture. Now he had gone out, he created this narrative, whereas anything that was out there that we have already readily accepted as being religious artifacts, he had gone one step further and said that this is how you know the Matrix is true. There was one particular picture, I think it was a Hindu statue of the guy had like little pods or something on it, that he said that look at all the breastises on that. Think of all that. Now those are pods. Those ain't titties. Those are pods.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I'll put that in the background for you just to show you that we are off the rails here. But nonetheless, I'll put this up here one more time. I don't like Candace Owens. Yeah. And funny enough, I don't care for either. But I hope you saw, Marcus, that a predominant amount of the lies and mistruths that you see circulating in the Black culture, she is responsible for pushing a good amount of that. Let's not forget that you have Byron Donalds, and we're talking about public representation. Gifted hands, Ben Carson, along with her, were making the statement that Planned Parenthood was put in Black neighborhoods to control the population. Okay, yeah, that was a lie as well. Now, in that particular video that I showed you, I also made sure that I put the links to all the information that I shared, because I bring facts. All right, I bring the truth with me. So I'll go ahead and probably add that video to the description, because obviously we're 2 hours and 45 minutes in. So yeah, we probably need some time stamping here. Could I bug you, ma'am, and I throw a little money under the table here to get you to probably look at that if you have time? Otherwise,
I got you. You don't have to pay me. I got you.
Yeah. But remember, is your show this weekend, or did you push that to next week?
I pushed it back. Yeah, I have to get some things done.
Here I am adding to it. I am so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
But ultimately, let's go ahead and let's land our plane here right now. So we have got a full amount of information in this 2 hours and 46 minutes, which I did not plan to go this long, but we hit a stroll here, and both you and I had some things to add to it.
Yeah.
And it's not as if anyone sat up here and told lies either, because we did not.
Mm-hmm.
So final thoughts here regarding the loss of vigilance in Black culture regarding civil rights, religion, and social media. What are your final thoughts overall with the loss of vigilance in Black culture?
Calling all parents. Encourage your children to read. The best way to do so is if they see you reading and researching and learning. Be the example. You have to make it a part of your life, everyday life. That's it. Thank you for listening. Love y'all.
All right. So my final thoughts here as well is that we are in a state of deprivation when it comes to recognizing that the rights that we have are eroding in front of us. But the problem that we're going to see here is that there is too far a gap between Generation X, Generation Y, and Z. We're talking later Generation Y, and definitely all of Generation Z. There's a gap that is too far to what it seems like almost to bridge, because of the fact that it was not emphasized enough, it being the rights that we had gained in the mid-60s. Affirmative action, Operation Push, Rainbow Coalition, Department of Justice being created for civil rights, being the Civil Rights Division. All that is now on the chopping block, and we're seeing now that our history, which has been recognized, is now being considered divisive, racist, and also revisionist, because the daughters of the Confederacy have played the long game, which is to create an alternative narrative of what history was, stating that the Confederacy was bullied by the Union Army, that states' rights was at play, not the Civil War being fought over slavery. We've seen the distortion of history by these folks, to whereas now we're watching the government being distorted, to whereas it's used as a strike force to hunt down anyone who is responsible or still utilizing division, equity, and inclusion, which is now being criminalized because, well, we need to have a merit-based system, and you can't have that with DEI, which of course we know benefited white women more so than blacks, but still across the board is being associated with being a black thing.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, we've seen Donald Trump has interfered with the federal government when it comes to contracting, where the first day out of the game, he made sure that one of the executive orders, 12264, I want to say, that was put in play by Eisenhower, stating that segregation would not be allowed on federal contracts. Donald Trump removed that to whereas segregation is now allowed on federal contracts.
Oh boy.
But he cannot fully enforce that unless he gets rid of civil rights.
Mm.
So that is what is being aimed for right now. But we still have got judges in place to slow this down. As of today, a judge ruled it unconstitutional for Donald Trump to try and do away with DEI programs and others dealing with diversity in colleges. So there's a hold on that, but we'll see where that goes. But nonetheless, we need to be vigilant about this. All right. So for the Hispanics and the Venezuelans who voted for him, well, you're now seeing that you yourselves, even you who are American citizens, are being put against the wall and accidentally put into some of the deportation camps. And luckily, some have not been sent out of here as a result. But still, you're recognizing that your vote helped cause the situation here. So recognize if you are not deported out of the country by the time the midterms or the next elections come by in 2028, you need to do a reverse stance on where you've been and recognize what is good for everyone. So again, I will let it go right here. We are at a deficit when it comes to vigilance in the Black culture, and we have got to get ourselves straight. Civil rights, we need to make sure that those who are not a part of that period get educated about that period. Religion, we need to make sure those who have been indoctrinated and who are still not able to see past what they've been taught or shown, as we clearly stated with the Panari Indian, that the Roman Catholic Church will create a situation in order to get people converted. And again, we've seen in social media, when it comes to our lack of vigilance, where we allow one or two blacks, the Black conservative comfort on the plantation mentality, to override your common sense.
I'm curious to what resource was there in Venezuela that they were after. So you know they were after something.
I really couldn't say. But the issue that you were in with the Venezuelans is that the belief was that they're not, or Donald Trump is not coming for the bad ones. It wasn't about resources in Venezuela. It was all about
the Panari Indians. Weren't they in
you talking
Venezuela?
about the Indians?
They were
they
was that Venezuela?
Yeah, that was no, that was not Venezuela. That was I'm sorry, Venezuela. Forgive me. I think it was an area of Venezuela in South America where the Panaris were. I think it may have been somewhere in that area, but it wasn't per se resources. Although, yes, I see what you're saying now when I put context to it. I don't know if it was resources or the fact that they just wanted to convert them. But yes, it generally starts with resources that somebody wants. So we'll go ahead and try and convert them to whereas if they share our beliefs and our thought processes, it will make it easier for us to acquire what these individuals have. Yeah. So I really didn't say at that point in time, but yes, resources generally have a lot to do with it. But again, overall, wake up, people. And one last thing, I keep saying that, but you heard me say this other night. I'll say it again. It's time to get woke one more time. When our knowledge expands, influence soon follows.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So once again, folks, last but not least, we have Alicia, Kathleen, Hunting Wisdom, and myself getting ready to sign off here. So my last call, find somebody who knows somebody, tell somebody about what we've got going on over here. If you like it, let us know. Share it if you do, and subscribe if this is what you're looking for. Alicia, hang back for a second after we drop out here, if you could, please.
I got
other than that, folks,
good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.